Hey guys, tonight we're crawling inside ice older than human ambition, where time freezes mid-breath and light bends blue. Imagine standing where Genghis Khan's empire maps crumbled into myth, where glaciers hoard stories in their icy jaws. Your boots sink into snow that's seen civilizations rise and rot, and your lungs scream for air thinner than a billionaire's remorse. Spoiler, you probably won't survive this without tapping out or developing a sudden vendetta against oxygen. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your hometown and current time in the comments. Let's map how far this glacial chill can seep. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your fingers brush ice that predates Cleopatra's first eyeliner flick. A frozen river older than Alexandria itself. These peaks birthed the Mekong and Ganges. A fun fact for your next trivia night meltdown. Historians still argue whether monks drank this water to commune with gods, or just really loved flexing on commoners. Cold gnaws through 3 layers of wool, your breath crystallizes into fleeting ghosts. Every crunch underfoot echoes the Himalayan plateaus, slow yawn continental plates, grinding like tired bones. You're not just walking on ice, you're treading on Earth's memory banks. Here's the kicker. Local legends claim ice cores hum if you press your ear just right. A glacial lullaby no microphones ever captured. Scientists roll their eyes, but lug around hydrophones anyway. Can't risk missing the mountain's greatest mixtape. Wind carves serrated tunes through ice spires, nature's own haunted flute section. Your water bottle's already frozen solid, ironic, given the millennia of H2O surrounding you. One wrong step sends a crack splitting through neon blue depth, a reminder that glaciers keep grudges longer than your ex. Did you know Sherpa guides once traded ice shards as currency? Pocket change literally colder than crypto. Now they smirk at tourists hugging oxygen tanks while carrying 40-pound packs uphill. Respect where it's due. Sunset stains the ice-filled blood orange. Your shadow stretches into a grotesque giant. Night comes swift here, a starved predator with jagged teeth. You fumble with a headlamp, its beam catching diamond dust, swirling like drunk fireflies. Wait, was that a face in the ice? Probably just pareidolia messing with your hypoxic brain. Or King Jessar's ghost judging your life choices. Either way, keep moving. The glacier's patience wears thinner than the air. Stumble into a crevasse. Its walls ooze sapphire light. Your guide mutters about vapor pockets and trapped argon. You're half convinced it's a portal to some Lovecraftian spa day. Blink and the ice seems to ripple. Blink again, it's motionless as death. Someone in the 1800s tried bottling this water as a virility tonic. Spoiler, it cured nothing but sobriety. Modern labs still fight over its mineral profile, silica levels that make kombucha look like ditch water. Your lips chap. Your nose runs. Every inhale feels like swallowing broken glass. But when you finally taste a melted handful, it's shocking. Not just cold, but empty. Water stripped of everything, even the memory of soil. Avalanche thunder rumbles miles away, the mountain's stomach growling. Your team freezes mid-step, then exhales. False alarm, for now. The glacier watches, unimpressed by your relief. Fatigue blurs the horizon into mercury, mountains melting into sky. One truth crystallizes. You're a guest here. A mayfly buzzing at eternity's edge. The ice outlasted pharaohs and dynasties. It'll outlast your playlist too. Stumble back to camp, fingers numb as you're dating prospects. Stars blaze like ice chips flung across velvet. Somewhere below, villagers pray over jars filled with tonight's haul. Their gratitude warmer than any fire. Sleep drags you under the ice's whisper lodged in your skull. You'll wake changed, not wiser, just quieter, because some truths freeze dry perfectly, while others melt before you grasp them. Your boots sink into snow that hasn't melted since Kublai Khan ruled China, crunching like the earth's own heartbeat. Villagers move ahead in sheepskin cloaks, dyed juniper black, their footfalls precise as prayer beads. You note the yak wool hoods, same ones Himalayan herders wore 8 centuries back when ferrying tea across the roof of the world. Modern hikers would kill for this insulation. But here, it's just Tuesday laundry. They pause where ice turns cobalt-blue, a shade no camera ever captures right. Elders forbid stepping here, claim the color marks where mountain deities sleep. A teen smirks, showing you his phone's cracked screen. Tried GPS once, he whispers. Map apps just spin like haunted compasses. His laughter vanishes into the wind, a sound swallowed by altitude. You mimic their ritual steps, left foot always breaching the snow first. It's not grief avoiding blue ice, it's geometry. Ancient surveyors plotted these paths using star maps and stolen sunlight. Historians still argue whether pilgrims walked here for trade routes in silk or salvation in frost. The answer's written in ice, but good luck getting archaeologists to chip it free. Your guide kneels, gloveless hands sketching symbols in the powder. Her fingers resemble roots thawing after winter, all twisted patience. Watch the light, she murmurs. Dawn hits the glaciers, and suddenly the snowfields a ledger. Shadows reveal grooves where generations dragged ice sledges, phantom tracks glowing gold. You half expect spectral yaks to materialize, grumpy, and already chewing imaginary grass. 3 hooded figures approach, bearing weathered copper urns. The vessels look like they've been hammered by Thor's less talented cousin, dented but stubborn. Legend claims these urns never spill, even during earthquakes. You don't test it. Pouring takes an hour each tilt, synced to breaths held too long. Your lungs burn, but laughing would feel sacrilegious. Like giggling in a vault of diamonds, someone offers brick tea, bitter as regret, but steaming with pine resin sweetness. You drink, they nod. Snow muffles the world until a far-off crack splits the silence. All heads turn. A rookie mutters about avalanches, but the elders grin. Just the glacier singing, one says. Same note, it's held since the Ming dynasty renovated the Great Wall. You strain to hear the melody, but maybe some songs are felt in molars, not eardrums. The descent begins, jagged ice reflecting your party like a funhouse mirror. A villager points to charcoal marks on boulders, faded slashes from the 1950 Chinese Geological Survey. They tried to improve our routes, she snorts. Spoiler, glaciers don't read maps. You're too busy sidestepping crevices to ask what happened to those scientists. Truths overrated at 16,000 feet. By midday, your water skin tastes like aluminum and sky. The villagers share theirs, liquid so cold it numbs your lips. You swear it crackles going down, like swallowing static electricity. They call this unspoken water collected before babies cry or roosters crow. Scientists would blame dissolved minerals, but you're not rushing to explain. Some mysteries stay sharper in the dark. Campfire smoke curls into animal shapes, a rabbit, then a bear, then something with too many wings. Stories begin tales of yetis stealing unattended urns. Not monsters, insists a grandmother stirring broth with an ice axe. Just old collectors, forgotten by their clans. The pot bubbles, and you wonder if myths taste better at altitude. Probably. Hunger's the best seasoning. Stars emerge sharp as ice picks. The villagers hum a tune that predates musical notation. Your phone's dead, but the melody sticks like a burr. It resurfaces weeks later in a Shanghai elevator, escaping your lips before you can stop it. A businessman stares. You shrug. Some souvenirs outlive their journeys. You wake to a cold sharper than betrayal, the tense fabric crackling with hoarfrost. Moonlight still clings to Everest's western ridge, but the villagers already stir. Their fire pit exhales juniper smoke, a scent older than the Ming dynasty's imperial altars. You'd kill for 5 more minutes, but sore muscles remind you sleep's a luxury for flatlanders. Bootlaces freeze into stubborn knots, your breath steaming curses unheard since Tudor sailors. A grandmother hands you a stone warmer from her cloak, its heat stolen from volcanic springs centuries back. Cheaper than coffee, she deadpans. You cradle it like contraband, knowing Starbucks won't replicate this for at least a decade. Rituals begin in silence. Copper tools are passed through smoke, an aroma mixing sacred and practical. Juniper disinfects, but locals swear it annoys mountain ghosts. You count 9 passes, each rotation echoing ancient tea caravan protocols. Historians still argue whether these rites started as spiritual acts or Bronze Age OSHA compliance. The answer's probably written on some yak parchment, currently used as a monastery's wallpaper. Dawn leaks over the horizon, pink light skating across ice fields. Your guide points to fern-like frost patterns on a boulder. Spirits forecasting today's weather, she claims. Meteorologists would blame temperature gradients. But you notice villagers tightening their straps anyway. Science and superstition hold hands up here, both breathing the same thin air. The first gourd is filled, not with water, but crushed barley, an offering tossed into crevices, though you spot gray langurs watching from cliffs. Thieves or spectators. The monkey's poker faces rival Wall Street traders. They know the drill, your guide shrugs. Since Emperor Taizong's reign may be earlier, you imagine Tang Dynasty monkeys gossiping about clumsy humans, their chatter lost to blizzards. Ropes get checked thrice, a rule carved by tragedy. Your harness feels like a persistent hug from someone who barely likes you. The villager beside you hums, a tune you recognize from last night's campfire. His mittens bear cross-stitched snow leopards, eyes embroidered with threads from Lhassa's vanished dye markets. Each paw print's lopsided worship made relatable. Someone mutters about British explorers who tried mapping these slopes in 1903, using whiskey as antifreeze and hubris as oxygen. Their frozen boots still surface during thaws, toe caps pointing toward home. You glance at your own boots, suddenly grateful for modern polyester. Nostalgia's lighter when it's not literal dead weight. A teenager offers glacial ice in a tin cup, its bubbles trapped since the Little Ice Age. You crunch a sliver, cold, detonating your sinuses. Tastes like you stammer. Like silence, she finishes. Her smirk suggests this joke's older than the ice itself, passed down with tribal tattoos and grievance. The headman arrives, his face a topographic map of squints. He barks orders softened by a missing front tooth. Tools are distributed, bone-handled ice picks and bamboo tongs. You're handed a ladle carved from juniper, already worn smooth by dead strangers' palms. The weight feels sacred, or maybe that's just altitude sickness talking. Sunlight finally punches through, glaciers igniting into liquid chrome. Work begins. Every strike against ice is muted, as if the mountain absorbs disrespect. You mimic their jabs, unearthing aquamarine chunks older than the Magna Carta. The villagers nod approval, though you probably look like a toddler dismantling a wedding cake. Breath clouds merge with juniper smoke, a veil between you and the 21st century. Your phone's buried deep in your pack, its notifications fossilizing. Let emails riot. Somewhere below, yak bells clunk a distant rhythm, nature's ringtone. You save a shard of ice in your pocket, knowing it'll evaporate before reaching the valley. Still a cold companion for the hike down. The ice shard becomes a ghost in your pocket, already weeping through the fabric. Your lungs register the theft first, each breath thinner than a diplomat's promise. Altitude turns oxygen into a coy lover, always leaving you wanting. You count steps between rocks painted with faded mantras, red pigments mixed with yak blood centuries back. A village teen snorts, try breathing through your eyelids. He's joking. Probably. Wind sculpts the air into something tactile. You could chew it if your jaw weren't clenched. Headaches pulse in time with your boots. Crunch, throb, crunch, throb. Sherpas call this the mountain's whisper. But it sounds more like a migraine with tenure. Half blind from glare, you recall George Mallory's 1924 expedition. Men clawing Everest's ribs without oxygen tanks. Their frostbitten journals described headaches as ice picks made of God's disappointment. You finally get it. Your guide points to a rock cairn topped with rusted crampons, an offering to Yeti spirits. They steal breath from the arrogant, she warns. Skeptics laugh until they're gasping at base camp. You pretend to adjust your scarf, secretly checking for phantom fingerprints around your throat. Rationality shrivels faster than sunscreen at this elevation. The trail narrows, a goat's apology of a path. You press against the cliff, feeling the mountain's heartbeat through stone. Geologists would cite tectonic shifts, but locals blame arguing glacier dragons. Your water skin sloshes, a misbehaving organ outside your body. One sip, the liquid so cold it numbs your molars. Brain freeze is just altitude's welcome party, someone quips. No one laughs. Humor freezes solid here. Shadows stretch, yet the sun hangs stubbornly high. Time dilation hits like a bar tab. Was that break 5 minutes or 50? Your watch claims both. Historians still argue whether Mallory summited Everest before vanishing. His corpse debated more than his legacy. You envy his deadline. No Instagram fans demanding summit selfies. Just ice and the dignity of failure. A severed rope dangles from an overhang, frayed ends fluttering like Tibetan prayer flags. You touch it, the nylon brittle as old skin. Teams from the 70s, 80s. Decay outpaces memory here. The mountain swallows chronologies, grinding eras into glitter dust. Your guide hums a folk song about a yak herder who married a snowstorm. The divorce was messy. You pass a stain in the ice, rust red and vaguely hand-shaped. Mountain menstruation claims the smirking porter. Iron oxide deposits corrects the geology student from Beijing. Both descriptions feel equally absurd. Science and folklore were the same grubby parka up here, zippers broken, pockets full of half-truths. Your knees sing opera, each step a high C. The Sherpas glide like they're on escalators. One offers a wad of fermented barley paste, better than Gatorade. It tastes like a barnyard's gym sock, but your pulse stops staging a riot. Trade-offs. A raven lands on your pack, beak clacking. Bad luck, mutters the team. Good Wi-Fi signal, you counter. The joke dies alone. Birds here are either omens or lunch, no time for avian comedians. It steals a protein bar and flees. A disgruntled Uber eats driver with feathers. Clouds smother the valley below, a foamy sea swallowing yesterday's struggles. You squint at a distant overhang. Is that a frozen body? Better not to ask. The mountain guards its souvenirs. Someone mentions a 1930s pilot who crashed nearby, his perfectly preserved sandwiches auctioned for charity. Tragedy plus carbs equals legend. Your nostrils crust with ice, each inhale a Chinese letter straw. Chapsticks, a distant memory. A Sherpa rubs butter on his face, an ancestral SPF 1000. You decline. The stench of rancid yak milk isn't your preferred scent profile. Fatigue arrives uninvited, crashing through your joints like a drunk uncle. Resting isn't an option. Cold seeps upward, a rising tide of lethargy. You focus on the rhythm, left boot, right boot, left boot. Swear internally. Everest's south side hosts traffic jams of tourists, but this silent purgatory feels crueler. At least queues have camaraderie. The glacier groans, a bass note shuddering through your fillings. Crevasse, avalanche, just the mountain clearing its throat. You recall a Tibetan proverb, mountains don't kill. Time does. Bullshit. Time's just the weapon. Sunset bleeds gold across the ice. A final taunt. Temperatures nosedive. You fumble with mittens, fantasizing about Japanese heated toilets. The student offers hand warmers from AliExpress. 30% success rate. It's lukewarm, which counts as steamy here. Stars emerge sharp as ice chips. The Milky Way mirrors the glacier below, two frozen rivers divided by a membrane of air. Your headlamp catches a snow flea's shadow, Goliath-sized on the ice wall. For one delusional moment, you bow to your insect overlord. Breathing becomes arithmetic, in for 4, out for 8, pretend for infinity. The Sherpas chant. It's monotone, yet the cadence soothes your fried nerves. They're singing about yaks again. Of course, Everest's original influencers. Dawn feels theoretical, a rumor from lower altitudes. Your water bottles a slushy. Perfect. You bite the ice, gumming primordial refreshment. Teeth may crack. Priorities. The raven returns, this time eyeing your goggles. You hiss. It cocks its head. Put that on TripAdvisor. Fine. 0 stars. Would not die here again. Step. Breathe. Step, forget why. The horizon wobbles, a drunkard's interpretation of straight lines. Porters discuss whose turn it is to bury the poop. You volunteer anything to sit down. Denied. Dignity persists. Someone shouts, a seal-like bark. Yaks approach, hauling empty barrels up a godforsaken slope. Their bells clank a defeated anthem. One pauses to lick blue ice, obsessed with the very thing that starves it. You get it. Mist rolls in a woolen gag. The world shrinks to boot prints and doubt. Your guide materializes, offering a salted butter tea. It coats your throat like edible armor. Drink slow, she orders, or the Yeti steals your voice. You chug it. Let him come. At least there'd be conversation. Your shadow stretches ahead, a charcoal smear on the snow. It moves independently, or maybe you're hallucinating. Reality's negotiable at 5,000 meters. That stain, definitely a Yeti's LinkedIn profile photo. The rifle crack of calving ice echoes nature's jump scare. Adrenaline squirts through your veins, then congeals into dread. Should have peed earlier. No privacy here, just a communal squat over infinity. Lips split, nose bleeds, ears pop. You're a leaky bag of biofluids trudging through a postcard. A Sherpa laughs, pretty. He means the sunset, not your face. Small mercies. Darker clouds gather, the kind that birth lightning and regret. No one hurries. Speed's a myth here, like warm toes or moral clarity. You envy the yaks, their utter lack of existential crisis, their perfect frosted eyelashes. Night falls like anvils. The tents ahead shimmer, a fata morgana or sleep deprivation. Both stumble inside, sleeping bag zipper fights back. You lose. The ice shards gone, just a damp crescent in your pocket. Proof evaporates, but the mountain remembers. Bamboo flexes like a living thing, an extension of your arm as you probe glacial fissures. The dipper's edge hesitates, then breaches liquid trapped since Cleopatra ruled. 19th century British explorers tried smuggled pewter flasks, their clanging scared off spirits. Local tools stay silent. The mountain prefers humility. Your vessel brims extraordinary weight for something that'll become a puddle. Physics feels personal here. Nile-less civilizations built aqueducts. You're just a middleman for meltwater. A villager mutters about Qing dynasty, bamboo pipes still threading through nearby cliffs. You make a mental note to fact-check that if cell service ever defrosts. Fingers cramp around the dipper's throat. No gloves allowed, skin must confirm the water's sleeping breath. Frost sears your palm, or maybe the jar's whispering. Historians still debate whether ancient collection jugs were tools or temple relics, the answers written in your blisters. Drops echo inside hollowed gourds, each plink stretching time. You count 37 before realizing numbers don't matter here. A Sherpa jokes about blue ice being sold as a hallucinogen in Lhasa back alleys. Better than LSD, worse for your karma. You pretend not to consider it. Wind hiccups across the jar's mouth, a low D note humming through your molars. Someone claims this pitch calms avalanches. You doubt sonic science till the mountain stops growling. Coincidence, the porter winks. Physics is just lazy magic. Clay pots squirm in your pack, live things resisting captivity. Straps dig trenches into collarbones. 18th century traders used yaks for this, but signed no union contracts. You envy their leverage. Every stumble sloshes proof of your clumsiness. Lunch is frozen barley paste slapped onto a warmer rock. The student cites a Yale study on ice melt acoustics, his breath frosting the data. You zone out, staring at a raven dismantling someone's mitten. Efficiency looks different here. Shadows lengthen, your procession becomes a beetle procession across the glacier's cheek. Each jar holds a thunderstorm's worth of patience. 19th century missionaries called this pagan logistics. Locals called it survival. Both sides died thirsty eventually. Your heel skids on blue ice, a heart attack avoided by 3 jerky dance moves. The guide nods approval. Mountain doesn't like boring travelers. Humiliation simmers until you spot a Sherpa cartwheeling for a dropped waterskin. Balance is relative. The first village appears, smoke plumes stitching earth to sky. Jars clink as you descend, a wind chime announcing liquid salvation. A toddler runs barefoot to meet you, his cupped hands ready to catch stray drops. Thirst has its own gravity. Elders emerge, faces cracked like drought soil. Their inspection is silent, till one presses an ear to a jar. Good dreams inside, she declares. You wonder what nightmares sound like sloshing. Sunset bleeds into the vessels, a final benediction. Tomorrow's water weighs more and less. You watch a drop escape down your wrist. Its journey just paused, never finished. The mountain exhales, its breath still trapped in clay. The first drop cracks the silence, a glass marble hitting stone from 3 stories up. Your gourd amplifies it, turning H2O into bassoon music. 17th century, Tibetan monks timed meditations by these drips. Their hourglass alternative required 0 sand and infinite chill. You wonder if enlightenment comes faster with numb buttocks. Another plink, this one sharper. Ice melts at its own bureaucratic pace. Your left knee stages a mutiny against stillness. Historians still argue whether ancient collectors sat cross-legged or invented the first kneeling stool. Both camps agree frostbite was involved. A Sherpa passes with a thermos of butter tea, its steam curving away from the cold like a scared cat. You decline. Drinking feels like cheating, plus your bladders negotiating with the altitude. Blue-tinged sunlight slices through the gourd's neck, projecting liquid constellations onto the ice. Someone carved their initials here in 1928. The TS survives, their story frozen mid-confession. Hours bleed, drops accelerate, a jazz drummer's ghost taking over. You count 17 plinks before noticing the patterns syncopated. Byzantine water clocks used bronze discs, a ND Chinese letter labor. This version runs on shivering and false hope. A graduate student claims each drip contains a unique frequency. You start naming them B-flat. A sharp, passive-aggressive sea wind pirouettes through nearby ice flutes, nature's backup band. 19th century mountaineers swore these melodies summoned yetis. Modern acoustics suggest wind shear over hollow glacier tubes. You side with the yeti theory. It explains the missing granola bars. Your gourd's waterline kisses the halfway mark. Progress feels reverse-engineered, like watching a glacier reclaim its tears. A porter hums a folk song about a snowflake that fell upwards. His grandma swore it was a true story, or maybe just guilt over spilling yak milk. Shadows stretch into liquid amethyst. Cold rewires your sense of time. Minutes become rubber bands. Archaeologists found Han Dynasty ice cellars near Xi'an, their walls still sweating out ancient winters. You mentally redesign your apartment as a giant refrigerant. The guide chuckles at your chattering teeth. Americans always forget to hate the weight, he says, tossing you a fistful of ginger candies. They taste like burning Christmas. A raven lands nearby, tilting its head at the gourd's song. Mutual judgment ensues. 2 drops collide mid-fall, an accidental harmony. Your notes dub it duet for beginners and frostbite. Locals say certain tones make ice cores sweat faster. Or maybe they're messing with the anthropology students again. Either way, you hum along. Nightfall arrives wearing all its stars. The gourd's now 3/4 full. It sloshes deeper, drowsier. A researcher once tried bottling these sounds as sleep therapy. Sold well in Tokyo, till clients started sleepwalking to their fridges. Your breath etches poems on the air, each exhale a dying language. Underfoot, the glacier groans in B minor. You name the next 3 drops regret, second regret, and why didn't I pee earlier? The mountain tolerates your nonsense, barely. Dawn's first light strokes the gourd's belly. The final drop falls with a sigh. A mic drop for H2O, your legs creak upright. Human origami unfolding. Someone left a thermos of tea at your elbow, stone cold and perfect. The porter inspects the gourd's mouth. Good pitch, he declares, as if grading a diamond. You glance back at the ice, already healing its liquid wound. Time to carry, the mountains whisper downstairs. The tunnel's mouth exhales glacial breath, its teeth sculpted from a millennium of collapse. Your headlamp paints stalactites like frozen chandeliers, until the beam catches dragon scales. Or maybe just quartz veins. Historians note 9th century monks mapped 12 blue Buddhas in these caves, their icy thrones melted into puddles of heresy. You resist licking the walls, mostly. A guide taps a formation. It hums middle C. Sing it a nursery rhyme, he deadpans. They answer in Tibetan. You try happy birthday. The cave responds with a rumble, either tectonic disdain or the mountain's acid reflux. 19th century climbers swore these echoes formed words, usually insults about their mothers. Your boot breaks through a false floor, ankle deep in meltwater, older than the Magna Carta. Silver fish dart past, eyeless and translucent as cursed gelatin. A 1920s expedition journal describes these as frozen tears of Shiva. Modern biologists call them Gymnocyprus piarzulske. You call them noprods. Moonlight squeezes through a crack overhead, spotlighting a half-buried skeleton. Not human, unless humans had saber teeth. Mastodon, the guide shrugs, or demigod. Depends on who you want to tip. Radiocarbon dating says 17,000 years. Local lore says it's the remains of a purity duel between mountain gods. Historians still argue whether ritual ice combat was metaphor or Olympic sport. You scrape lichen off an ice wall, revealing ochre handprints. Students in the 1970s identified 76 distinct prints, 53 signed Padma in archaic script. cryptographers think it's a prayer. Your numb fingers suggest it translates to "this wall is freaking cold." The guide points to ceiling scratches, 3 parallel gashes spanning the cavern. "Yeti love letters," he murmurs. You counter with glacial striations from bedrock movement. He nods, then adds, "carried by Yeti-sized landslides. A stalactite drips on your neck, nature's participation trophy." Deep corridors branch into darkness, each exhaling whispers of wet stone. During the Cultural Revolution, rebels hid Buddhist texts, here ink frozen midword. Conservationists now battle fungus, eating the parchment. You touch a surviving character, its curves sharper than a presidential meme. The ice underfoot glows faintly blue, a symptom of overcompressed oxygen or ghosts. Your guide claims spelunkers once followed these dragon veins to hidden hot springs. 3 returned. Their photos show grinning men and something blurry in the mist, possibly a towel rack. A chamber opens, its ceiling vaulted like a cathedral designed by M.C. Escher. Central pillars twist into helix patterns or giant Oreo filling. 17th century hermits meditated here till their skin turned permafrost chic. You try sitting, your tailbone vetoes the idea. Wind snakes through unseen tunnels. A distant moan builds into a shriek. "Mountains singing," the guide explains. You're 70% sure it's just air squeezing through the West Ridge fault line. Either way, it's a platinum album track. Your light dies. Darkness swallows the chamber, then blinks. Bioluminescent algae swirls to life a galaxy under your boots. A 1998 Nature doc called this glacier Aurora. The crew got sued for using screensavers as footage. You stomp, electric green ripples mimic crop circles. Science shrugs. You dance. The exit appears as a sliver of bruised daylight. Scooby-Doo logic says the real treasure was getting out without becoming an ice mummy. Yet your pocket holds a stolen pebble, its edges rounded by ancient rivers. The guide winks. Now it owns you. Sunlight stabs your retinas, blinking away afterimages. You sense the cave's breath lingering in your jacket, or maybe it's just hypothermia. Behind the glacier groans, its dragons shifting in cold dreams. Frostbite arrives as a lover, first the thrilling numbness, then the burn. You flex fingers now waxy as supermarket candles, each knuckle creaking like a haunted staircase. Remember those Tibetan herders. 8th century manuscripts praise their yak-butter hand salves, prepping for weather that laughs at polar bears. Your own gloves might as well be lace mittens from a Victorian tea party. A villager presses a heated stone into your palm. Its warmth blooms like stolen sunshine. Mice holes, he grins, turns out pica rodents, stash hot pebbles in their burrows. Medieval hand warmers with bonus rodent glitter. You pray it's not their bathroom corner. Your thumb throbs, a warning bell forged in liquid nitrogen. 19th century British explorers called this the devil's kiss. Locals prefer mountain poetry, each blister a stanza, written in salt and stinging wind. You compose a haiku in your head, something unprintable about snowflakes. Dark spots bloom under nails, ink spills on ivory parchment. Scientists say it's capillaries surrendering. Mystics insist it's the glacier tattooing its map onto your flesh. You half expect a frozen Starbucks logo. The guide slathers your hands in fermented barley paste, smells like a frat house carpet. Genghis Khan's troops used this, he states. Historians still argue whether Mongol warriors conquered Asia or just outstank their enemies. The paste hardens into a crust. Nature's oxycodone meets Pop-Tart glaze. Pain sharpens into a Zen master's riddle. Is it fire or the memory of fire? Your fingers become divining rods, trembling toward phantom heat. A 1930s Soviet climber claimed frostbite hallucinations, showed him Stalin's secret pasta recipes. You see Tetris blocks. Always Tetris. Someone offers a wool sock filled with hot pebbles. You hug it like a newborn, steam rising in grateful little curtsies. Local lore warns of frost demons that siphon body heat through fingertips, which explains every bad Tinder date ever. Nails turn the color of oversteeped tea. A shade Pantone would call regret mauve. You recall Victorian photos of mountain corpses, their smiles preserved like flies in amber. This seems less fun now. The guide snaps an icicle off a tent flap, sucks on it like a popsicle. Pain's just the mountain talking, he muses. Trouble is, it's a terrible conversationalist. You imagine Yelp reviews for glaciers. 1 star, would not recommend. Warmth returns in prickling waves. A million fire ants tap dancing under your skin. A 1960s experiment proved cold-damaged nerves scream louder than fresh ones, like vintage guitars feedbacking through Marshall stacks. You're basically Jimi Hendrix's amp now. Someone's grandma mutters over your hands. Her breath smells of butter tea and cardamom. She spits into the barley paste. For luck, the guide translates. You're 90% sure she just cursed your Wi-Fi forever. Evening brings a new kind of cold, one that chews instead of bites. Your fingers pulse like misfiring flashbulbs, each throb timestamping the damage. Everest doctors once sold frostbitten toes as paperweights. You check if yours are still there, counting twice for good measure. Sleep comes in jagged slices, dreams of microwaved snowballs and flaming ice hotels. At dawn, the pain mutates into something almost holy. Your hands thrum with the glacier's heartbeat. Or maybe that's just nerve damage set to dubstep. The guide inspects your mummified fingers. Good, he nods. Now you can hold cold properly. You're not sure if it's praise or a threat written in frost. Your boots sink into snow turned blue by centuries of compression, crunching like God's own cereal. Ahead, a corridor of ice walls taller than redwoods, their surfaces rippling with trapped air bubbles. 6th century Silk Road traders used such striations as maps, reading frost lines like subway routes. You half expect an ancient exit glacier sign in Sanskrit. Sunlight pierces the ceiling, splitting into prisms that tattoo rainbows across your parka. One beam hits your eyelashes. Suddenly, you're wearing disco glitter from a climate change rave. 19th century poets called this frost fire, though their editors probably axed the acid trip descriptions. Walls lean closer, whispering glacial gossip through capillaries of meltwater. A 1970s Soviet experiment tried coating these passageways with silver iodide, turning glaciers into celestial mirrors. Rumor says Kozygin himself skied here wearing mirrored shades. Cold War chic meets cryogenic spy games. Your guide halts where the path bifurcates, both options curving into blindness. Move like smoke, he advises. You opt for the left tunnel, its floor polished smoother than a Tokyo subway station. Mistake. Within 10 paces, jagged teeth of ice rise like prison bars. History books claim Genghis Khan abandoned troops in similar mazes, their frozen screams still echoing in dendrochronology charts. Backtracking, the right fork smells of iron and wet stone. Your headlamp catches glyphs carved waist-high, spirals within triangles within spirals. Historians still argue whether 8th century monks meditated here or just partied with psychedelic lichen tea. You trace a symbol, your thermal glove, sizzling against millennium-old ice. The mountain exhales, a basso profundo grown straight from a baptismal font. Shadows writhe as clouds eclipse the sun, chasing sapphire into cobalt, into bruise purple. A millimeter-wide crack glows ahead, revealing honeycombed chambers beyond. Some climbers swear they've seen humanoid shapes in these hollows, ice doppelgangers mimicking their movements. You wave, nothing waves back, which is either comforting or deeply insulting. The ceiling drips, each drop ringing your aluminum canteen like a tuning fork. Franz Joseph's scientists once catalogued 14 ice melodies here, until their pianist got frostbite on his vibrato. You hum Freebird, the Glacier answers, with a plinko version of Let It Go. Nature's remix is brutal. Your hip brushes a protruding ice blade, instantly numbing through 3 layers of Gore-Tex. Medical journals call this thermal transfer. Villagers call it ice's fingerprints. You now have a denim popsicle clinging to your thigh. At least you'll die fashionably. A sliver of daylight appears, not ahead, but beneath your feet. The floor thins to window pane fragility, revealing a river gnawing at the glacier's belly. 18th century miners lowered bamboo cages here, harvesting dragon tears for Qing dynasty pharmacists, their ledger entries read like stoner poetry. 5th moon, scraped blue sadness from underworld's chin. The exit yawns sudden and bright, flinging you onto a slope of diamond dust snow. Your guide inspects your jacket's new ice crust. Good, he says. Now you're part of the mountain's jewelry. Behind you, the labyrinth exhales, one perfect snowflake landing on your cheek like a whispered receipt. The snowflake melts, its cold kiss still tingling as distant thunder shakes your molars. Your guide freezes mid-step, head cocked like a satellite dish, tuning to static. Another rumble, deeper this time, vibrates your fillings into Morse code. North face shedding, he mutters. The mountain is sneezing. You picture Everest-sized tissues. Sunlight glares off the Karakoram range, 23 peaks, over 25,000 feet, according to faded British survey logs. In 1924, Mallory's team recorded similar booms before vanishing into Everest's myth machine. Their last diary entry: avalanche like God rolling 10 pins. You mentally calculate your bowling average. Cracks spiderweb across a slope, 3 valleys over, white plumes swallowing granite teeth. The guide yanks you behind a glacial erratic, big enough to hide a tank. Impact tremors hit your kidneys, rattling like maracas in a polka band. Ice shards hiss through pine boughs, nature's shrapnel. Dud shells from 62, the guide says, patting the boulder. Sino-Indian war artillery still peppers these valleys. Frost heave turns them into seasonal landmines. You suddenly miss Starbucks. Silence returns thicker and heavier than before. The guide scrapes hoarfrost from his beard. Many layers to mountain anger. He points to fresh debris 10 stories below. A stone stupa emerges unscathed. Historians still argue whether these stacked rock piles guided shepherds or trapped demons during 9th century purification rites. Your water bottles frozen solid. Ironic, given the apocalyptic snow cone, debris everywhere. You recall a Tokyo vending machine selling Glacier breath mineral water for $9. The scam suddenly feels justified. Clouds clot the sun, temperature dropping like a stage curtain. The guide snaps telescoping poles from his pack, carbon fiber joints clicking like mantis legs. We dance now, he says. You shuffle step across blue ice, spiked boots biting harder than your ex's lawyer. A whine slices the air, high and mechanical. Rescue drone, you ask. The guide snorts. Rich trekkers hiring Wi-Fi ghosts. Last summer, a billionaire's son crashed his quadcopter into a Yeti statue, triggered a congressional hearing in Kathmandu. Fog bleeds across the pass, swallowing colors, until the world becomes a wet photocopy. Your GPS watch dies, the screen flashing a sad face emoji. Altimeter says 12,000 feet. You lie. The guide's chuckle sounds like gravel in a blender. Half-buried prayer flags flap in the newfound wind. Their Sanskrit mantras, now Morse code staccato. 17 minutes later, a cairn appears, its stones balanced by someone with OCD and a physics degree. The guide places a striped pebble atop the stack, his version of a Yelp review. Thunder groans again, closer this time. The earth bucks like a rodeo bull with a caffeine Jones. You faceplint into powder, tasting generations of yak farts preserved in permafrost. The guide hauls you up by your hydration pack, straps digging permanent shoulder dimples. Through ice-crusted lashes, You spot the culprit, a serac the size of Buckingham Palace, calving off the ridge, its collapse filmed in IMAX slow motion. Shockwaves knock a bearded vulture mid-flight, its indignance visible even at 300 yards. Yaks ahead, the guide announces, pointing to absolutely nothing. You're debating hallucination versus hypothermia when shapes resolve, 12 shaggy beasts forming a living barricade. Their amber eyes reflect the receding avalanche, pupils flared like eclipse viewers. One cow lows, a sound felt in your molars. The herd parts, revealing a crevasse bridged by frozen wool. Follow exactly, the guide warns. You mimic his penguin shuffle, aware that death by yak won't look good on your urn. Wind screams through the pass, a primal karaoke night. Your nose hairs crystallize, each breath scraping like Velcro separation. The guide hums a Tamang folk song, its lyrics likening blizzards to angry flower merchants. You contribute a Lizzo verse. The mountain judges silently. Moonlight butterflied the snowfield, your shadow stretching into a Giacometti sculpture. The guide stops, pressing his ear to a boulder. Mountain's heartbeat, he insists. You try it, freezing your earlobe to what's either quartzite or a really chill pet rock. Dawn bleeds through grudgingly, pink tendrils clawing at the eastern ridgeline. The guide unwraps a birch bark parcel, frozen curd cheese that tastes like existential despair. He offers a leather flask. Boat kosho, he says. You sip, fire ants march through your sinuses. Fermented mare's milk, he clarifies. You yearn for hand sanitizer. The yaks vanish like mountain spirits, which they might actually be. Your boots crunch over debris, strewn ice chunks, resembling modern art. The guide kneels suddenly, brushing snow off a rusted ice axe. Bird eyes, he mutters, naming the 1950s French climber who disappeared wearing one argyle sock. A dust devil pirouettes across your path, hoarding stolen snowflakes like a klepto sprite. The guide lobs a juniper twig through its core, dispersing the vortex into glitter confetti. Old trick, he smirks. You file this under things to try at Coachella. Final descent begins, boot soles printing blasphemies into pristine snow. The valley yawns below, threadbare pines stitching earth to sky. Somewhere down there, hot baths and questionable Wi-Fi, the valley's first hot spring smells like boiled minerals, and regret, its steam mocking your wind-chapped lips. Elders materialize from the mist, robes the color of storm clouds. Their palm-held jars glint, each the size of a human heart, pumped full of glacial silence. One crone's voice rasps, a sound like bark, unraveling. Pristine waters need fierce blessings. She dips a 300-year-old copper bowl into the nearest pool, its surface etched with constellations not found in any star atlas. Rumor claims the metal came from a 13th century meteor strike, though carbon dating suggested a more mundane 16th century origin. Historians still argue whether Tibetan sky burial rituals influenced Norse funeral practices, or if convergent creepiness explains both. You kneel, knees popping like bubble wrap. The eldest man traces your forehead with ice melt fingertips colder than celibacy. His nails harbor traces of vermilion dye, the same shade Marco Polo described on Himalayan sorcerer priests in 1275. Your guide murmurs their singing in Zhangzhung, a dead language where each vowel can mean 6 things, depending on which mountain echo repeats it. Juniper smoke coils around the jars, forming shapes your brain insists are faces. One vapor serpent licks your ear, leaving temporary tinnitus shaped like a nursery rhyme. The crone smirks her teeth stained betel nut red. Spirits love fresh listeners. A younger elder unwraps a yak leather bundle, revealing pickled snow lotus petals. Their scent hits like a chloroform bouquet. Victorian explorers stole these as aphrodisiacs. Your guide whispers caused diplomatic incidents when their wives found the invoices. You fake a cough to hide a snort. The chanting crescendos, syllables falling faster than avalanche debris. Each jar gets a petal, then a drop of the elder's own blood drawn with a jade lancet. Modern chemists found trace psilocybin in similar rituals, incense, though nobody's dared ask why. Your guide nudges a jar with his boot. They say blessings sour if you blink during the vapor dance. You stare until your contacts freeze, watching mist twist into avian shapes. Some claim these formations predict rainfall patterns. Others insist they're just pretty bullshit. The crone sloshes jar water over polished stones, their surfaces etched with spirals. 19th century missionaries thought these symbols represented hell's hierarchy, until translators realized they were ancient watershed maps. Liquid hits rock with a hiss, the steam smelling suspiciously of burnt sage and deja vu. A drum made of human femur bones appears, its beat syncing with your carotid pulse. The guide mouths don't ask before you can. Each thump vibrates the nearest hot spring into concentric panic. Frogs fleeing like tiny green acrobats. When the eldest sprays your face with blessed water, it tastes like copper and existential vertigo. Now you're responsible. The guide translates, avoiding eye contact. Shadows lengthen, the jars glows intensifying into something that feels alive. One elder passes out dried apricots, their sweetness clashing with the iron aftertaste of ceremony. Twin drones buzz overhead, tourists filming authentic local culture. The crone flicks a pebble with preternatural accuracy. Satisfying glass shatter follows. Your guide chuckles. She's defending their copyright. As stars pierce the twilight, the elders retreat into smoke-tied tents. The jars remain 36 glass pupils, reflecting the Milky Way's lazy swirl. Your breath fogs the nearest one, momentarily etching a face that might be your own or someone much, much older. The hot spring gurgles, a wet punchline to the day's sacred slapstick. Somewhere downhill, a yak belches. The mountain tolerates your laughter, barely. Moonlight turns the glacier into a cracked mirror, each fissure humming like a plucked cello string. Your boots sink through sugar-crust snow into ice that remembers Genghis Khan's cavalry thundering across the Silk Road. Archaeologists found 13th century arrowheads preserved in these flows, still sharp enough to draw blood. A creak beneath your feet morphs into a groan, the glacier's version of clearing its throat. Guides claim certain pitches predict avalanches, though scientists blame shifting pressure plates. You freeze, toes curling inside triple-layer socks. The sound repeats, lower this time, vibrating your molars like a bassoonist with a grudge. The air smells of ozone and fossilized cold, a scent old as Antarctica's first freeze. Your headlamp catches a vein of blue ice swirling like marble. Victorian geologists thought these patterns were frozen serpents, until their own hypothermia-induced hallucinations got them fired. A pop echoes sharp as a gunshot. You spin, expecting a crevasse. Instead, a bubble winks at you from within the ice, trapped air escaping after 900 years. Historians still argue whether Marco Polo documented these frozen breath ghosts or just plagiarized a drunk yak herder. Your guide taps an ice axe against a pressure ridge. Listen, it's singing in D minor. The vibration travels up your spine, a chord only glaciers and grand pianos understand. Some climbers swear the tones trigger memories from past lives, but you're pretty sure that's altitude sickness talking. Frost feathers spiral across a boulder, their crystal filaments spelling names in a lost alphabet. You trace a glyph that looks suspiciously like your initials. The mountain's fucking with you, your guide chuckles, then tenses as the ice mutters syllables like KRRRTKTK. A slab calves off a serac, shattering into diamonds that skitter across the snow. Your ears throb with the after silence, deafness, wearing a white noise jacket. 19th century explorers blamed these ice whispers on Tibetan wind harps until their Sherpas admitted to hiding gramophones in supply crates. Steam rises from your thermos, the smell of instant noodles clashing with primordial chill. You dribble broth onto the glacier, a peace offering. It freezes midair, forming a tiny amber stalactite. Don't, your guide warns. Last guy who fed the ice got dysentery from a 1,000-year-old phage. Shadows lengthen as clouds eat the moon. Your crampons scratch a rhythm the glacier mimics, creaks sinking to your stride. Climbers in the 1970s thought this meant the ice was alive, until someone noticed they all shared LSD-laced trail mix. A sulfurous whiff hits your nose hairs crystallize instantly. Fumarole, your guide says, pointing to a hissing vent. Ice melts into an azure pool, its surface reflecting stars, no telescopes cataloged. Conspiracy forums claim these are alien navigation markers, but you're more concerned with the sentient-looking moss growing nearby. Your glove brushes a snow bridge. It purrs like a contented cat. The vibration spreads, awakening bioluminescent algae beneath the ice. Neon blue tendrils pulse, a rave thrown by microorganisms. Your guide rolls their eyes. It's just electroluminescence. You pretend not to notice their Instagram story lighting up. Dawn bleeds across the horizon, the glacier's groans rising in pitch. Cracks spiderweb underfoot as sunlight hits, each fracture emitting a tinny ping, like a cosmic microwave timer. You retreat downhill, guided by ice's farewell aria. Under your breath, you hum a pop song. Somewhere deep in the glacier, something hums back. The glacier's hum fades as you round a sérac, its shadow stretching like taffy. Ahead, a line of figures shimmer, more ripple in air than flesh. Their weathered coats blend with granite, only the faint squeak of boots on névé gives them away. 19th century ice harvesters sewed yak wool to their sleeves. Tufts left behind still sprout from crevasses like gray flowers. One shape pauses, turns. Sunlight slices through their face. For a heartbeat, it's your grandfather's crow's feet and wind-burned smirk. You blink, features revert to a stranger's. The man nods toward an overhang where meltwater glints. Glaciologists found 64 human skeletons under Rupkund Lake's ice, frozen mid-stride, with 8th century coins in their palms. Their final path mirrors yours. Your crampons slip on blue ice, hands clawing for purchase. A calloused grip hauls you up, but when you turn to thank them, only a lichen-stained boulder stands close. The rope around your waist tugs left, no one's holding it. You follow anyway, ankles barking with each step. Himalayan porters once warned climbers about snow ghosts, said they'd steal your warmth if you acknowledged them aloud. The air thins, thoughts blur. A woman materializes, pouring something from a goatskin into your canteen. Liquid hits your tongue, bitter and metallic, like licking a battery. She vanishes, leaving a smudge of juniper ash on the lid. Historians still argue whether Yeti myths began with ice harvesters, vapor trail mirages, or vice versa. Your guide would call this hypoxia, but your arms feel stronger. Shadows lead you across a snow bridge thinner than a wedding veil. Below, a crevasse exhales air preserved since the Ming Dynasty. Your foot breaks through. A hand shoves your pack from behind. You sprawl safe, skidding to a stop beside a rusted ice axe. Its owner's name, scratched off by storms. Twilight falls, the figures glow faintly, phosphorus or tired eyes. One points to a cairn stacked with frozen marmot bones. You add a protein bar wrapper, modern votive offering. They nod approval, or maybe indigestion. A 19th century British climber wrote of phantom Sherpas carrying his gear. Turns out his Sherpa team was real, just sick of his haikus. Your headlamp dies. Moonlight fills the void. The shadows now walk beside you, their breath syncing with yours. Frost crystallizes on their beards, identical patterns blooming on your scarf. Cold fuses your ankles, turns lungs into glass bellows. You long to ask their names, but words freeze in your throat. A figure stops, presses a palm against ice. You mimic them, feeling vibrations skate up your arm. Some claim glaciers store memories in crystal lattices, that touching them replays ancient hunts or coronations. All you get is pins and needles, and the urge to pee. Dawn breaks, shadows dissolve like sugar in tea. Your path now marked by fresh boot prints, though you're alone. A mittened handprint glistens on a boulder palm smaller than yours. You press yours over it, icy business card. The air thrums, a note so deep it's felt, not heard. At camp, your guide squints at your frost-limbed jacket. You've met the recyclers. They jab a spoon at your canteen, where ice swirls into a helix no freezer makes. Distant laughter echoes, or maybe just a marmot's final scream. You sip the metallic water, tasting centuries of vanished hands that carried this same thirst. Your lantern gutters, its glow shrinking to a single defiant ember. Above, the sky cracks open, stars seeping through like sap from frozen bark. You tilt your head too far, world flipping, as the Milky Way becomes a river, cold enough to drown in. 17th century, Tibetan star charts marked comets as sky yaks, their tails predicting ice harvest yields. Tonight, they graze undisturbed. A shiver starts between your shoulder blades, climbing vertebra by vertebra. The cold has teeth now, gnawing through 3 layers of down. You fumble for an extra sock hat. Pull out a desiccated energy bar instead. It crumbles like Martian soil, staining your glove orange. 12 countries once raced to patent glacier water cosmetics. Swiss labs even tried bottling pure melt vibes in atomizers. The mountain licks your face, unimpressed. Wind dies. Sudden silence rings louder than any avalanche. Your breath crystallizes midair, tiny galaxies born and dying in your throat. An elder once swore the stars here aren't lights, just holes punched by ancient ice harvesters' picks. You count them, losing track after 83. The Big Dipper's handle points toward a crevasse where your canteen slipped yesterday. Universes mocking you, subtle as a snowshoe to the face. Something crunches behind a boulder, too rhythmic for falling ice. You freeze, thumbing the dead lantern's switch like a rosary. A hare emerges, stops, stares with eyes reflecting entire constellations. It sneezes, shattering the moment. 17 expeditions between 1901 and 1935 vanished here. Search parties found only tea tins full of perfectly preserved icicles. You toss the hare a raisin. It bounds away, trailing stardust from its paws. Lie back snow accepts you like a mother too tired to argue. The sky's sprawl should feel infinite, but pressure builds, a sensation of walls closing in. Astronomers mapped a cold spot over Tibet. An absence of microwaves, some claim, is a bruise from colliding universes. You trace it with a mitten, accidentally poking Polaris. There, a meteor scratches the dark. Not the quick slash you'd see back home. This one oozes, molten silver dripping through black velvet. It lands northward, where the glacier's head should be. Historians still argue whether medieval monks used falling stars to redraw pilgrimage routes or just really liked sparkly things. Your toes vote for sparkly things. The ice beneath you groans, low and guttural. You roll aside as a fracture line zips past, kissing your hip. Could have sworn the ground just muttered careful. 20 meters down, crystals catch starlight, creating a chandelier in a cave you'll never see. 3 years ago, a photographer strapped headlamps to marmots for night shots, got pictures of them flipping him off. Their shadows still haunt gear shop postcards. Clouds muscle in constellations blurred like wet ink. You're suddenly homesick for streetlights, the petty tyranny of a 7-Eleven's fluorescence. A familiar giggle ripples the air, one of those shadow figures. Nope, just ice expanding in a nearby boulder. Tibetan nomads call this sound earth laughter. You call it passive-aggressive tectonics. Moon smears through the haze. Its light weak, apologetic. You spot a cairn ahead, rocks stacked into a crude arrow pointing southeast. Beneath the top stone, a WWII-era aviator's glove, desiccated fingers still curled around a tin of burnt almonds. Why the hell not? You pocket one, tastes like forgotten D-Day rations, and El Esprit de El Escalier. Auroras aren't supposed to happen here, yet green ribbons snag the horizon. Not the swaying curtains of polar regions. These are jagged, splintered. A Soviet climatologist once theorized Tibetan glaciers emit charged particles, creating localized ice light. Her grant requests read like vodka-drenched poetry. You snap a photo, phone dies with a judgmental beep. Dawn's first blush erases the stars, like God hitting a delete key. The glacier exhales, ancient air pricking your nostrils with smells of prehistoric pine. Last night's terrors soften into anecdotes, your jittery heartbeat, now a steady drum for the descent. That raisin-stealing hair watches from a ridge, a squashed Milky Way bar in its jaws. Universe 1, U0. As you pack camp, frost shakes from your jacket, tiny supernovas exploding on the ice. The guide squints at your snow-crusted face. Talk to the stars. A. Their smirk suggests constellations gossip. You glance back. The Milky Way's last droplets shimmer in your abandoned canteen, already freezing into someone else's mystery. The ice caves swallow your footsteps whole, each crunch devoured by blue-throated walls. Your headlamp carves a trembling path, revealing ribs of frozen centuries. A drip falls, then 50, plinking a discordant lullaby. You catch one on your tongue, tastes like yesterday's storm and dinosaur spit. 17th century traders stored Silk Road tea here bricks of fermented leaves, still wedged between ice layers. A mercantile time capsule, now just muskox pea stains and regret. Breath swirls, suspended syllables sculpted into ghostly commas. You whisper hello, it ricochets as hell, low. Eerie, sure, but worse, the caves stealing your best material. A 1938 expedition found a frozen honeycomb here, bees preserved mid-buzz. Their last thought, probably why's the damn nectar crunchy? You chip at the wall, a crystal shard detaches, revealing what looks like a mammoth tusk or a really committed ice sculptor's prank. Shadows coagulate ahead. Your light bounces off something angular. Could be a prayer wheel or a Han Dynasty fridge. Historians still argue whether these caves were spiritual sites or Neolithic walk-in freezers. You half expect a Yeti bartender offering Glacier margaritas. Instead, a stunted stalagmite wears a knit cap left by some whimsical soul. Its damp smells of wet yak and poor decisions. Echoes mutate, footfalls become door slams. Zipper teeth become snarling beasts. You unwrap a protein bar, the crinkle echoes like a wildfire. Lesson learned. Snack stealthily in sentient caverns. An alcove glows ahead, not with your light, something deeper. Pressing closer, you find ice impregnated with bioluminescent algae. Tiny stars drowned during the last ice age, still cursing the landlubber life. Your boot breaks through a false floor, ankle deep in slush, older than farming. The shock numbs your teeth, a full-body brain freeze. A bubble floats past, trapped methane from when Rome fell. Pop it. Tempting, but you'd smell like a pyramid's fart for weeks. The walls begin to sweat, or maybe weep. 20 years ago, a climber swore he heard Gregorian chants here. Turns out wind through a fissure shaped like a drunk monk's uvula. Light bends unnaturally, refracting into a spectrum that shouldn't exist. Your shadow splinters into a dozen versions, each mimicking different eras. One's wearing a top hat, another has a smartphone. Time's drunk at the wheel again. A crevice breathes, exhaling air warm enough to sting. You recoil, then laugh. Of course the glacier has halitosis. A formation stops you cold, ice molded into perfect stairs, ascending nowhere. Mountaineers insist they're natural, eroded by dripping patience. Romantics whisper of Yeti contractors paid in mutton. You climb 3 steps, your soles squeak out Mendelssohn's Wedding March. The cave disapproves, rumbling a bass note that cracks your outer mittens. Something glints in your peripheral vision chrome. Too smooth for this old stone circus. Digging, you unearth a 1940s harmonica. Thaw it against your neck. It wheezes Chattanooga, choo-choo through ice-clogged reeds. Beneath it, a USSR medal for glaciological valor. Stalin's frozen fuck-around trophy, tossed when the vodka ran out. Dizziness hits, air's thinner here, or your brain's drowning in excess wonder. You slump against a wall, feel it vibrate. Whole sections pulse like slurping arteries, the mountain digesting time itself. 19th century maps labeled this area Satan's diaphragm. Harsh, but accurate. After 3 days without caffeine, you hum to test the acoustics. The cave remixes it into whale song. Add beatboxing. Suddenly, its Viking funeral dirge meets EDM drop. An icicle plummets, impaling the floor where your foot hovered seconds ago. The cave's critique is pointed. Turn a corner confronted by your own face, multiplied in frost etchings. A funhouse mirror from hell's winter cabin. Blink, the reflections don't. One smirks, another mouths turn back. Your gallbladder votes yes. Your curiosity burns veto slips. Deeper, the ice turns the color of dialysis fluid. You pass handprints, some small enough to be a child's, or a snow leopard's. A chamber opens, ceilings vaulted like a frozen Notre Dame. Stalactites drip at each drop, exploding into fog on impact. The mist coalesces into shapes, cities, wars. A surprisingly accurate taco truck. Scientists say it's pareidolia. Shamans call it ice TV. You watch a tiny caveman invent fire, then get sued by his mastodon, HOA. A velvet silence falls, even the dripping stops. Pressure builds in your sinuses, the cave holding its breath. Then, a crunch like God biting into granite. The floor shudders, walls squeeze inward an inch. You become very interested in exit strategies. Survival math kicks in. Calculate retreat speed versus advancing chill. 63 steps to daylight, 70 if you sidestep the angry honeycomb zone. Remove a mitten, press bare flesh to the wall. Cold sears up to your elbow, but the ice retreats. The cave respects pain or hates the stink of terrified sweat. Sunlight blinds you at the exit, world reduced to white noise and retinal ghosts. Turn back. The cave exhales a final plume of mist. It hangs, forming a question mark. Your frozen breath still drifts inside, captured syllables future hikers will mistake for ghosts. Let them wonder. The straps dig into your collarbones, each jar's weight a nagging reminder of gravity's petty grudge. Your spine creaks like a ship's mast in a storm. A sound no 26-year-old back should make, yet here you are, pack animal to liquid time capsules. Locals call this the breast of the mountain, which feels mildly edible given the biting leather harness. Sun glares off the jars, their bellies sloshing with glacial defiance. You adjust your grip, calluses meeting bamboo's ribbed insistence. 14th century Silk Road traders used double-layered yak stomachs for transport. Your guide mentioned this right before laughing at your modern flimsy rigging. A strap snaps. The sudden lurch nearly topples you into a crevasse. Note to self: medieval engineering low-key sucks. Your shadow drags a dozen water-heavy silhouettes across the snow, a parade of exhausted clones. One jar sweats a perfect droplet. It plummets, lost to centuries of melt cycles. Sacrilege, whispers the wind, or maybe that's your guilt rotoring at tinnitus pitch. Someone in a valley will drink less tonight. A yak caravan overtakes you, their bells clonking derisively. The herder grins, teeth stained beetle nut red. Even stones grow roots before you reach the pass. He's not wrong, but you resist lobbing a snowball at his retreating back. Historians still argue whether these vessels were meant for royal courts or shared village springs. The yak's flopping answer suggests its team equality. Ice prickles your nape, each jar's chill leaching through seals. Your breath sinks with their sloshing, a morbid metronome. 8,000 steps left. Give or take a snapped tendon. You count them until 742 becomes a Zen koan. A Soviet climatologist in the 50s claimed packed glacial water cured his gout, and also his wife's affair with a junior glaciologist. Correlation. The mountain isn't telling. Your right boot punches through a snow crust, knee-deep in powdered regret. A jar tilts, liquid glugging like a drunken ghost, saved by a lunging elbow strike to the ice. Pain blossoms your ulna humming Tibetan folk songs. The vessel mocks you with its unbroken stopper. Smug little clay bastard. Lunch is frozen raisins and spite. Chewing feels seismic, jaw threatening to unhinge like a python's. You imagine the water inside dreaming of its future, irrigating barley, baptizing a screeching infant, dissolving in some bureaucrat's morning tea. Does it prefer destiny to stasis? Nice of it to play coy now. A marmot pops up, whiskers twitching at the jars. Back off, rodent, this isn't your spa day. It chitters a sound that translates to nice austerity vibe, ascetic Barbie. You lob a raisin, it's snagged by a diving lammergeier. Circle of life. Now get off my existential trek. Disney. Slope steepens, each step requires reincarnation level commitment. Thighs burn, calves threaten union strikes. A porter's secret. Pretend you're an ant hauling a sugar cube. A dumb metaphor, but it gets you 6 more paces. 1920s explorers used cocaine tonics for this stretch. You'd kill for a sniff and a hug. Wind shifts, carrying the resinous tang of juniper smoke. A cairn appears, stacked stones older than your passport. Tradition demands adding a pebble. But your pockets hold only lint and poor life choices. The jars grow heavier, their combined mass warping gravitational laws. Einstein would have noped out at base camp. Clouds bruise the sky, promising snow or mild atmospheric vengeance. You cinch the harness tighter, a move your chiropractor would charge extra to witness. One jar vibrates, its contents humming like a struck wineglass. Legend says this happens when it's destined for someone's deathbed sip. Morbid, but hey, job security for the water bearer. A rogue icicle spears the path its tip, glinting with schadenfreude. You sidestep, jars clacking like displeased bureaucrats. The sound echoes, attracting a curious raven. It caws 4 times, ominous in birdlish. You counter with a whistled Disney villain melody. The bird leaves, possibly to file a complaint with the Forest Guild. Twilight bleeds across the glacier, shadows stretching into funhouse mirror versions. Jars glow faintly, captured moonlight sloshing like liquid silver. 1883. A British survey team abandoned their haul here, fearing the water cursed by frost witches. Found later, empty, stoppers intact. You hum Taylor Swift to scare off any lingering hexes. Your left pinky goes numb, a preview of coming indignities. The harness chews a new divot into your hip. You fantasize about hot springs. Then remember this water's older than geothermal activity. Irony's a snowball to the face today. A rock formation resembles a giant's tooth, yellowed and weathered. Your guidebook dubs it Molar Pass because academics peaked at 12. You shuffle past, heels raw as sushi-grade tuna. The jars haven't lightened, but now one smells faintly of apricots. Hallucination or ancestral trick, the mountain archives won't spill. Summit prayer flags appear tattered tongues of color licking the wind. Almost there, if there means another 3 hours of suffering. Your nose drips onto a jar. The sizzle echoes like a falcon's cry. Apologies to whoever drinks that particular vintage. Stars emerge cold and disinterested. You count them instead of steps until the Big Dipper triggers soup cravings. The jars sway a pendulum, marking your penance. 19th century Nepali porters sang bawdy songs to drown the agony. You attempt one, forget the words, default to the baby shark chorus. A snow leopard coughs in the distance. True criticism needs no translation. The village lights flicker, pinpricks of warmth in the frozen dark. Your throat tightens, not from thirst, something worse. Sentiment. The jars seem lighter now, or maybe you're just broken enough to mistake pain for progress. Final descent, a gauntlet of scree and karma. You slide, catch yourself, repeat. The lead jar taps your spine with each stumble, Morse code for hubris. A yak patty frozen in your path, nature's whoopee cushion. You lack the will to avoid it. The first stone hut looms, a child's painting of smiling suns on its door. Elders emerge, their faces cracked riverbeds of patience. You unhitch the harness, shoulders screaming in post-traumatic vowel sounds. The jars clank onto a ritual slab, their sloshing now a satisfied purr. Someone hands you a butter tea. It tastes of salt and wood smoke. Your fingers tremor, unable to curve around the cup. They nod. It's normal. The first time steals your grip. The 100th time steals your doubt. Lamplight reveals fissures in the clay vessels, microscopic lifelines. None leaked, or maybe the mountain reclaimed what it needed. A woman presses her forehead to the coolest jar, whispering thanks. You watch, a spectator to your own feet. Dawn bleeds through the peaks, the path behind you already erased by wind. Your footprints, the fallen raisin, the cursed Soviet harmonica, all gone. The jars sit silent as unopened letters. They'll begin their slow bleed into the valley tomorrow, but tonight they sleep. Your blisters throb, a victory lap for your circulatory system. Someone laughs inside the hut, a sound like ice surrendering to spring. You limp toward the warmth, the mountain's breath at your back. It murmurs, not in words, in the language of shifting snow. Tomorrow's haul will need a different fool. The mountain always chooses. The morning after delivering the jars, you trudge upward again, boots sinking into slush that groans like a sleeping giant. Sunlight fractures across meltwater pools, liquid mirrors, warping your face into 100 splintered selves. Each ripple whispers a different year: 1347, 1892, next Tuesday. 13th century, monks allegedly brewed tea from these pools to unstitch time, a claim modern historians dismiss as ritual theatrics. You dip a bamboo ladle, its shadow cross-hatching the basin. One local tale says the water contains frozen laughter from a goddess who choked on cloudberries. Your knuckles brush the surface, cold so sharp it erases fingerprints. A bubble rises, its iridescent skin stretched taut. Bursting, it releases a scent like burnt parchment. 18th century British maps labeled this area Dragon's Spittle, though their cartographer died before finishing the legend. You fill your first flask, liquid cascading with the grace of spilled mercury. Bottled patience, your guide called it. The flasks seems creak, protesting the weight of centuries. Your reflection blinks up, except it's not your face. Too many teeth, eyes like shale fissures. You jerk back, the vision dissolves into wavering light. A pebble skims the pool, stones skipping across decades. Historians still argue whether these basins were holy sites or just fancy Neolithic rain barrels. The water laps at your toes, a nonverbal why not both. Ice glints at the pool's edge, razor-thin sheets, shuddering with each breeze. You kneel and the mountain shifts. Not geographically, that's your kneecap protesting. A fish darts beneath the surface, translucent and eyeless. Pleistocene throwback or heat stroke hallucination. The flask stopper lets out a high-pitched whine, like air escaping a tomb. Sun pivots overhead, your shadow, now a compass needle pointing to folly. You've filled 9 flasks, each requiring 3 blessings muttered through chattering teeth. A 1936 expedition journal describes water here boiling at room temperature, later proven to be campfire moonshine mishaps. Your canteen's plastic cracks, its expiration date outlived by glacial runoff. Something glows beneath the western pool, a soft blue pulse matching your carotid rhythm. You resist the urge to wade in. That's how horror movies start, and also how 3 Sherpas vanished in '98. Their boots were found lined up neat as dental floss, filled with permafrost. The glow fades, leaving your retinas starved for color. Wind skims the water, consonantless vowels against your ears. You take a ceremonial sip and instantly regret it. Tongue numb, throat constricting, the aftertaste of lichen and unsent letters. Tradition claims this clears the lies from your blood. All you feel is a desperate urge to brush your teeth. Shadows lengthen, fingers of dusk clutching at the pools. Pack straps bite fresh grooves into your shoulders. Each flask's slosh mocks your dwindling stamina. A maverick glaciologist once sued the Dalai Lama over water rights, here case dismissed, when his evidence melted en route to court. Your left boot springs aleek toes bargaining with frostbite. The descent path curls like a serpent's shed skin. You step over ice-veined rocks, their cracks spelling primordial profanities. One flask begins humming, a Tibetan folk tune you swear you've never heard. It stops when you glare, liquid recalcitrance in ceramic form. Your nape prickles the mountain, tallying every misstep. Night falls in a single breath, stars smeared across the sky like wet paint. Flask 7 develops a crack, weeping glacial tears onto your pack. You seal it with pine resin and desperation. 1940s climbers used yak fat for such repairs. Results ranged from functional to bacon-scented disaster. Halfway to camp, or maybe nowhere, your headlamp catches a cairn piled with juniper sprigs. Fresh, a marmot perches atop, judging your life choices with beady-eyed rigor. You offer a raisin. It's refused with a chitter that translates to try harder, primate. Dawn finds you squelching into base camp, socks fused to blisters by icy sludge. The flasks clank onto the ritual slab, their song lower now, bass notes of a submerged piano. The elder inspects each slow drip, sniffing for tarnished centuries. Approval comes as a grunt colder than the pools themselves. You collapse by the fire, hands cupped toward flames that can't thaw bone-deep chill. Someone passes butter tea. Your sip pulls a memory from the water, a woman's laughter through morning fog. Not yours, not anyone alive. The mountain murmurs through smoke, offering riddles in exchange for borrowed time. You shut your eyes, let the thaw claim you. The fire's last embers hiss as dawn bleeds through frost-stiffened tent fabric. You fumble for your boots, fingers stumbling over laces, while last night's chill clings to your joints. Outside, paw prints, not the marmot's dainty stamps. These span your spread hand with room to spare. Each indentation glitters with thawing ice, claw marks etching fractured halos around the camp perimeter. A shadow stirs beyond the cairns, liquid movement over rock. The snow leopard perches on a boulder 10 paces away, muscle wrapped in smoke-gray fur. Its eyes hold that infuriating feline balance between disinterest and murder calculus. You freeze mid-yawn, breath fogging the standoff. Queen Victoria once received a snow leopard pelt as a diplomatic gift, promptly donated it to a traveling circus. The cat's tail flicks, dispensing ancestral judgment on British taxidermy etiquette. It leaps not toward you, but around you, a blurred orbit that kicks up diamond dust snow. Your guide's warning echoes. If they circle 3 times, you're either blessed or breakfast. The leopard completes its 3rd pass, then sits, gold-green eyes narrow, evaluating whether your soul's sufficiently pickled in mountain silence. A 2013 study claimed their chuffing sounds mimic human laughter. You're not laughing now. Sunlight hits the cat's flank, revealing scars like braille across its ribs. Historians still argue whether ancient monks trained these cats as temple guardians or just enjoyed good storytelling. The leopard sneezes, a derisive that sends a hangnail of ice sliding off the boulder. Its gaze flicks to your water jars, then to the distant pass. Message received. You reach for a dried goat strip, offering it on an open palm. The leopard's nose wrinkles. Rookie mistake. They prefer their meat sarcastic and breathing. It licks a paw with deliberate boredom. Tongue rasps, echoing the wind-scoured cliffs. A drop of meltwater plinks into your largest jar, the sound ricocheting like a gunshot in the stillness. The cat tenses, ears swiveling toward the sound. For 3 heartbeats, you're an exhibit in some Ice Age diorama. Then it deflates, contempt radiating through slumped shoulders. Snow leopards reportedly mark territories with urine smelling like buttered popcorn. This one's clearly skipped breakfast. It yawns, canines glinting, and pads away, vanishing into light refraction. Your knees unlock marrow, replaced with fizzy static. The paw prints already fading, sun-drunk snow, erasing all proof. You check the jars, half expecting claw marks. Nothing. Just your warped reflection doing its Picasso impression. Something glints where the cat sat, a twisted horn fragment wedged in rock. Argally sheep. Unlikely. This curves like a crescent moon, dipped in tar. The 1949 Sichuan expedition described ritual horns in these ranges, but ate their notes during a snowstorm. You pocket it, trophy or trespass tax. Wind shifts, carrying the faintest growl from the pass. Or maybe a chuckle. Your nape prickles awareness of being archived in feline memory. Tomorrow's problem. Today's task. Descend before the path dissolves into mud and regret. As you heft the pack, a distant roar shreds the silence. Not avalanche, not jet engine, but something raw-throated and ancient. It hangs in the air, a Cheshire snarl. You mutter, subtle, and begin walking. The jars slosh a counter-rhythm to your heartbeat, syncopated proof you're already halfway to legend. You navigate the scree slope like a drunk spider, ankles twisting on stones worn smooth by forgotten avalanches. The jars clink muted protests against your back, a sound somehow both comforting and accusatory. Descending feels like reverse time travel, each step thawing the mountain's primeval chill into valley humidity. Your footprints vanish behind you, swallowed by gravel shifting like a living thing. 3 ibex materialize on a ridge, their curved horns backlit by noon sun. One sneezes. The sound ricochets off canyon walls, transformed into something suspiciously like a giggle. Silk Road traders once claimed ibex urine could cure frostbite, though history never records who volunteered to test that theory. You raise a canteen in their direction, cheers, and immediately regret encouraging them. The path narrows, crumbling into a ledge, hanging over liquid turquoise. Meltwater roars below, its voice deeper than the mountain's growl this morning. Jars slosh in harmony, perfect fifths, resonating through your vertebrae. A villager once swore to you these tones form ancient lyrics, translating to drink slow, traveler, but leave some for tomorrow. Skeptics say it's hypoxia talking. A shadow moves across the ravine too fast for clouds. You squint, catch the white flash of a lammergeyer's beard. bonebreaker bird glides parallel wings, spanning the width of your childhood sedan. Legend claims they drop tortoises from cliffs to crack shells. Nature's first fast food drive-through. This one seems content to judge your wobbling progress. You round an outcrop, heat slaps your face like a baker's mitt. Summer's musk rises from pine stands below, sap and decay, and runaway wildflowers. The jars protest the warmth, beads of sweat forming on their clay shoulders. Historians still argue whether Tibetan water rituals began as spiritual practice or just a really effective ad campaign for glacial real estate. A cairn appears, stacked stones sprouting lichen whiskers. You add a pebble, dislodging 2 antler beetles locked in mortal combat. Their mandibles click insults as they tumble into ferns. Tradition demands 7 stones per marker, but you've never had the heart to correct the math. Your boot sinks into mud, first contact with thawed earth. The sensation's obscene after weeks of permafrost. 20 paces downhill, a rhododendron bursts into violet flame. Or that's your oxygen-starved brain talking. The real miracle. 900 years ago, monks brewed psychedelic honey from these exact flowers. Tax records show they sold it to spice caravans, labeled devotional aids. Light fractures through snowmelt mist, creating a prism that lands squarely in your eyes. You stumble, jars clanking like disgruntled church bells. The lammergeier screams, either a warning or avian stand-up comedy. A pebble skitters off the path, plunge time echoing up the cliffs. Your guide's voice ghosts through memory. If you die here, become a helpful landmark. The first stone hut emerges through the haze, walls cracking under ivy assault. No smoke from the chimney, just a single frayed prayer flag clinging to its pole. 300 years back, a British botanist mapped this route, then vanished after trying to patent glacier water as Himalayan elixir. Locals say his ghost still petitions the Dalai Lama for trademark rights. You unlatch the door, its rusted hinge shrieking. Someone's stacked firewood since last season and left a dented tin of Assam tea. Modernity feels invasive here, like finding a smartphone in a monastic cell. The jars thud onto a table worn smooth by elbows and elegy. Each slosh whispers the same truth. This water outlives every hand that carries it. Dusk purples the valley as you strike flint against steel. Sparks dance, catching tinder on the 7th try. Flame licks resinous pine, scent sharp as the leopard's gaze. Shadows warp the hut into something prehistoric, your stretched silhouette, a cave painting in reverse. You sip tea steeped with last summer's snow and try not to hear the jars humming lullabies to the empty room. The fire pops, startling a moth that's been orbiting your ear since sunset. Its wings brush your cheek, a whisper from the valley's humid underbelly. You trace the nearest jar's curve, clay still frigid despite the hearth's blush. Summer may rule the lowlands, but winter clings here, a fossilized shiver in terracotta skin. Moonlight bleeds through smoke holes, etching liquid silver across the water's surface. You dip a finger, expecting a shock of cold, but it's lukewarm now. Yet the core, when you sip, hits your throat like a sliver of January. 9th century alchemists wrote manuscripts about this paradox, their iron gall ink staining scrolls, now crumbled to dust. They called it the mountain's forged signature, though nobody's sure if they meant the water or the lie of seasons. A gecko scuttles up the wall, tongue flicking at condensed jar sweat. Villagers claim these lizards steal whispers from sleeping travelers, sell them to run-off streams for nectar. You hiss a fake secret. Marmots wear tiny hats, just to mess with the ecosystem. The gecko pauses, then escapes through a crack like a judge exiting bad theater. Dawn comes clothed in pollen, golden haze clotting the air. You layer the jars in yak wool, summer's heat already licking at their bellies. Funny how they're lighter now, yet heavier with all they must remember. One leaks a single drop. It beads on the floor like quicksilver refusing to fade. By midday, the jars feel like secrets strapped to your back, swaying with every misstep. Condensation paints dark maps across the wool, temporary geographies of evaporation. You pass a thicket where monarch butterflies overwintered last year, their orange wings now just flecks in spiderwebs. Historians still argue whether Tibetan water carriers wore their hair coiled to preserve melting ice or just hated bad haircuts. A truck groans up the valley road, first engine noise in weeks. Tourist stickers plaster its windshield empty. Everest crossed out with nope. In Sharpie, the driver offers you a Coke. Its aluminum can glinting like an artifact from Mars. You decline, but pocket the tab just to feel 21st century for 3 seconds. Mud thickens as you descend, each step requiring the commitment of a lifetime lease. The jars sing louder now, their pitch rising with the temperature. A farmer eyes your cargo as you pass his barley fields, makes the spiral sign against evil. Everyone knows water this old remembers things, and not all of them polite. You pause where the trail forks, one path leading to the village, the other to a derelict monastery. 3 crows debate your choice from a rusted irrigation pipe. They're voting for the place with better snacks. Your guide once joked before the glacier took his left boot. You choose the monastery, its courtyard sprouting neon fungi that glow even at noon. Inside the offering hall, centuries of soot cake the ceiling. You place a jar beneath Guru Rinpoche's weathered statue, its stone hands cupped in eternal receiving. Colonial-era graffiti mars the base. Henderson 1922, beside a crudely carved kangaroo. Rumor says Henderson hauled 8 jars to Calcutta, sold them as Himalayan zodiac water before dysentery, ended his sales pitch. Dust motes swirl where you uncork the jar, the pores echo, overlapping with nuns' decades-dead chants. The water pools in a bronze basin, liquid defiance against June's swelter. You drink, and for one glacial moment, the room holds its breath. back on the trail, your pack sits lighter, one vessel left behind as tithe and time capsule. The remaining jars clink a revised melody, fewer notes, sharper rests between. Somewhere ahead, children's laughter bounces off shale slopes. Their village will boil this water for tea, Mary. It's chill to cardamom and rancid butter. As you cross the final ridge, a raindrop nails your forehead, warm as blood. The jars tremble not from impact, but recognition. Monsoon clouds devour the horizon, their underbellies bruised purple and green. You cinch the straps tighter, wondering if irony can be stored in clay. The first hut welcomes you with smoke and a tethered goat's side-eye. Women emerge, hands outstretched not for the jars, but your face. They trace the salt lines left by evaporated sweat, read them like oracle bones. One presses a thumb to your forehead. Still cold, she murmurs. You're not sure if she means your skin or the ghosts in your cargo. Nightfall finds you by a sickly campfire, its heat pathetic against the mountain's lingering breath. The last jar hums against your knees, half lullaby, half lawsuit. Stars reflect in its mouth, a swallowed cosmos churning with trapped winter. Tomorrow, this water will become irrigation, holy offering, a newborn's first sip. But tonight, it remains a rebellion. The ceremonial cup tastes like regret, or maybe that's just the iron aftertaste of 15 centuries. You kneel on a threadbare rug, its fibers stained by decades of spilled libations. The elders' hands emerge from saffron robes, fingers like ice-worn river stones. They cradle a cup you'd mistake for obsidian, until it catches the light wrong. Tibetan metalworkers pioneered an alloy of meteorite iron and silver for sacred vessels, though this one's pockmarked surface suggests a 50-50 split. Your nose wrinkles at the aroma, melted mountain snowflakes, fermented with something vegetal, stinks like a yak's third sneeze. Your guide once warned, but he also thought Wi-Fi caused frostbite. The elder's throat works as they drink, a sound like pebbles tumbling down a frozen well. Their eyelids flutter, veins mapping paths only glaciers understand. For a breath, their face unclenches into something smooth and reckless. You've seen that look before, toddlers launching themselves off porch steps, rusty sleds outracing avalanches. A moth carcass crunches under your shifting knee. Historians still argue whether these rituals began as appeasement to ice deities or just really fancy hydration reminders. The elder exhales, frosted breath swirling into the shape of the mountain's forbidden west face. Their lips quirk memory or muscle spasm. The offering is accepted. They rasp, voice dragging across gravel. The cup clinks onto a copper tray, now imprinted with a ring of instant frost. Villagers swear each sip erases 1 year from the drinker's lifespan. A rumor possibly started by elders tired of questions. You're half tempted to lick the rim, see if it tastes like bad decisions and student loans. Wind rifles through the temple's faded prayer flags, sounding eerily like pages turning in a forgotten library. The elder's gaze sharpens, glacial blue irises locking onto yours. You've carried its weight, now carry its absence, cryptic AF. But you nod like you've unlocked IKEA instructions. Outside, sunlight glares off the returned jars, now sitting empty by the monastery's dung-plastered wall. A toddler waddles over, sticks her whole arm inside one vessel. Her giggles echo. A flock of starlings startled from a thorn bush. Half expected a genie, or at least a strongly worded yelp from the mountain. Later, you'll notice the elder's footprints in the thawing mud, deformed by years of ritual crouching. To the left, a perfect paw print melts into the sludge. Snow leopards avoid villages, except during water-blessing moons. Coincidence? The monk refilling your butter tea side-eyes the mark, mutters about old tricks and hungry shadows. By dusk, your tongue still buzzes not from the water, but the silence after the elder spoke, like someone pressed pause on the whole damn valley. Even the crows shut up for once. You pocket a shard of the ritual cup's patina. It leaves a tarnished stain on your thumb. Feels like cheating, but so does every souvenir. Rain arrives uninvited, needling through the temple's sagging roof. Drops hiss as they strike the copper tray, etching fresh constellations into the metal. The elders gone vanished into some back room, stocked with scalpels and skepticism. You trace the cup's cold shadow on the floor, wondering who'll refill it tomorrow. A novice monk offers you dried juniper berries. They crunch like beetle wings. His palms bear the same salt lines as yours, though his are still apprenticing. The water remembers. He whispers, then bolts like you're selling timeshares. From the valley below, the clank of jars being scrubbed with sand and regret. You exit as stars prick the cloud-ripped sky, stepping over a thorn branch laid across the threshold, protection, or a reminder that exits cost extra. The path downhill feels uneven, not from rocks, but the absence of those sloshing jars. Your shoulders ache for the weight. Muscle memories a clingy X. At the guest house, a German hiker asks if you've seen authentic ritual stuff. You toss him the tarnished cup shard. Got it from a vending machine, you deadpan. He sniffs it, declares it very spiritual, before Instagramming it next to his chia pudding. Sleep comes coated in ice melt dreams, endless staircases leading to a mouth-shaped cave. Your alarm's a donkey's bray, its teeth flecked with yesterday's grudges. The elder stands at your door, holding a steaming bowl of tsampa. They say nothing, just smear a dollop on the lintel. A grease stain to scare off thirsty ghosts. By noon, the village children are using empty jars as helmets. Their laughter chips at the mountain's grudging silence. You find the ritual cup in the communal trough, half submerged beside a soggy bar of laundry soap. Its alloy gleams dully, unimpressed by both sacred and suds. The elder waves from a barley field back to scrubbing frostbite from turnips. No nod, no drama, just the grind of one day, digesting the next. You shoulder your pack, threadbare, but lighter, and follow the creek downstream. Its current winks with stolen prayers, and maybe a moth's final punchline. Your boots sink into boggy soil where the creek forgets its name, each step a reluctant marriage of mud and melted time. This isn't water anymore, it's runoff with commitment issues. You kneel, palms flat, on a lichen-crusted boulder. The vibration comes first, a subsonic purr rising through basalt. Every Tibetan glacier hides labyrinths beneath rivers that twist like cursed fiddle strings. Locals call them earth veins, though you're pretty sure that's from a metal album your ex loved. 17th century surveyors mapped these currents using sheep bladders and spite, their ink sketches still archived in Lhsa's whispering vaults. Historians still argue whether those wobbly lines depicted actual aquifers or just really sad noodle art. A villager materializes beside you, face weathered like quarry stone. His thumb traces the boulder's fissures, a braille map of subglacial highways. They dream, he insists. The waters, they remember being clouds. His breath smells of roasted barley and unresolved tax audits. You nod, tourist-grade politeness, until he slaps the rock. The vibration sharpens, a single sustained note humming through your molars. Tibetan hydrology borrows from 8th century Persian Qanat systems, but good luck getting either culture to admit it. You unroll a canvas map treated with mutton fat, its edges curling like stale cookies. Red lines mark documented streams, blue for the guesswork. The villager snorts, draws a squiggle that pierces 3 contour lines. There, where the ice weeps after midnight, you're 70% sure he's messing with you. But his fingers bear the telltale scars of rope burns. Glacier guides get those from hauling idiots out of crevasses. The map soaks up drizzle, ink, bleeding into Rorschach puddles. Modern sensors could you start? He spits, a gob of disapproval sinking into the map's Tibetan sea. By twilight, your belly crawling through a meltwater tunnel, forehead scraping ice, veined with ancestral silt. Headlamp beams clash with ultramarine gloom. Your shadow, a mangled puppet on the walls, the tunnel sighs, airflow tickling your ear with nursery rhymes. Or maybe that's hypoxia. 16th century nuns reportedly navigated these labyrinths by taste, licking walls to detect mineral trails. You give it a try, tongue stinging with cold and poor life choices. Tastes like battery acid and existential dread. The villager's laughter echoes behind you, a sound that ricochets off ice older than the Crusades. Your knee finds a pressure ridge, ice groaning like a stepped-on cello. The map's useless now, sodden pulp in your back pocket. Ahead a fork, left passage glittering with false stars, right smelling of wet dog and inevitability. The villager presses a pebble into your palm, warm from his pocket. Ask, he grunts. You toss the stone down the left tunnel, it clicks, silences. The right tunnel swallows it whole, a gulping noise that shouldn't exist. Your bladder votes for retreat. The villager wades into the right passage, boots sloshing through centuries of melt. Hurry, he calls. She grows impatient. Half a click in, the ceiling drips operatically, each drop the exact tempo of Ravel's bolero. Stranger still, the ice reflects your face, wrong pupils dilated into black oceans. The villager mutters about time slick and mirror sickness. You make a mental note to Google that later, or maybe never. The tunnel widens, spilling into a cavern where stalactites drip upwards. Your headlamp dies mid-gasp, but the walls themselves glow now, foxfire blue. The villager crouches, scoops liquid into a hollowed gourd. Here, the first tear of the ice dragon. It looks suspiciously like Gatorade. You're scribbling notes when the tremor hits, a lateral lurch that slams your shoulder into laughing stone. The villager grabs your collar, yanks you into an alcove as the ceiling shears off. Boulders crash where you'd stood, filling the cavern with the applause of crushed quartz. His sigh smells of turmeric and disappointment. Map that. Dawn finds you squelching back to camp. Map replaced by muscle memory. The villager parts ways with a grunt, already late for yak milking sarcasm hour. Your notes are garbage, literally. Turns out soggy paper makes decent toiletries when the alternative is frostbitten leaves. At breakfast, a French glaciologist scoffs at your blue-tinged lips. Crevasse snorkeling. He mocks, baguette gesturing like a lightning rod. You describe the upside-down stalactites. His smirk freezes, croissant flakes snowing onto his lap. Later, you'll hear him whispering urgently into a satellite phone. The creek winks as you refill your bottle, its path suddenly obvious. Not veins, not threads, but fractals reproducing in real time. You chuck the villager's pebble into the current. It skips 7 times before the water devours it whole. 7's a holy number here, or maybe the glacier's just bad at math. By noon, your teeth ache from phantom cold, like you've been chewing starlight. The guest house bed beckons, but sleep brings claustrophobic dreams of liquid topologies. You wake clutching a pillow, fingernails carving river deltas into the fabric. The villager's pebble sits on your windowsill, dry as bone. Rain blurs the valley, turning your maps into abstract pulp. You'll rewrite them tomorrow, and the next day, until the mountain tires of your game. Somewhere beneath your boots, a dragon shifts in her sleep, turning glaciers into cradle songs. The Frenchman leaves abruptly, mumbling about funding reallocations. His jeep kicks up mud that splatters your boots, forming a perfect arrow pointing west. Probably nothing. Probably everything. You order another butter tea, the server's eyebrow arching at your blue-stained tongue. Nightfall brings a child to your door, offering a whetstone carved with spirals. For the ice, she lisps, then sprints into shadows. You run a thumb over the grooves. They align exactly with your pulse. Outside, the creek laughs, or coughs, or drags its nails across the valley's chalkboard spine. The whetstone's spirals bite your palm, matching your heartbeat's ragged staccato. Outside, wind sculpts fresh snow into funeral lace. That's when the shouting starts, a guttural panic ripping through camp. You follow the sound, boots punching through sugar crust snow. Past prayer flags, reduced to tattered plastic. Past the Frenchman's abandoned jeep, to where villagers cluster like startled quail. A crevasse yawns, its edges glinting like broken champagne flutes. Their hands thrust toward the abyss, stiff fingers caught mid-gesture. One voice rises, a teenage boy clutching a snapped harness. Lakpa stepped here yesterday. Solid ice, his eyes dart to a red scarf, fluttering at the void's throat, still swaying as if brushed by invisible shoulders. Tibetans once practiced sky burials, leaving bodies for vultures on high plateaus. This feels crueler, the mountain swallowing its own without witnesses. The boy spits 3 times left, right, center, a makeshift exorcism. His glove tears against the crevasse's lip, revealing ice strata stained rust red. Iron deposits, volcanic residue. You wisely don't ask. 3 elders arrive, their boots crusted with yak dung and authority. They murmur in tones that lower the temperature another degree. One produces a dented canteen, pours milky tea into the rift. It falls without sound, no splash, no echo. The eldest nods, satisfied. His name stays with the water now. Nightfall brings shared cigarettes and shared lies around a spitting fire. Guardsmen from Genghis Khan's army supposedly vanished this way, swallowed whole for stealing glacial water. Historians still argue whether it's metaphor, or if 13th century conscripts really froze mid-March. The Frenchman's satellite phone glows in his tent, survival guilt dialing international numbers. You catch words like subsurface fluid dynamics and Jesus Christ. Outside, children build snow ducks along the crevasse, whispering that Lakpa married an ice spirit. Their giggles sharpen the air. Dawn reveals fresh footprints leading into the rift, tiny, bare, petal-shaped. The elders argue, some call it a blessing. Others snap at tourists to quit taking photos. You pocket a pebble from the edge. It throbs against your thigh like a trapped moth. The boy from yesterday finds you scraping lichen off a boulder. His breath smells of butter tea and Adderall. They say you're making maps, he accuses. Before you can answer, he kicks your collection jar. Ice shards skitter into the abyss. Your lines are scars. By midday, a drone arrives, the Frenchman's doing. Its buzz violates the valley, a hornet in a cathedral. Villagers pelt it with frozen dung until it flees, trailing lens caps like mechanical tears. You almost cheer. Then remember you needed that footage. The crevasse sings after sunset, a basso profundo moan that vibrates your spleen. Modern glaciologists blame shifting ice sheets. The elders smirk. They've heard the glacier's belches before. You press a hydrophone against the ice, capture 37 seconds of rumbling that later gets mislabeled as Tibetan throat singing on SoundCloud. Lakpa's wife appears at your tent, offering a bowl of tsampa studded with raisins. Her eyes are dry, hands steady. She points to your whetstone. It's hungry, she warns. When you turn it over the spirals, now spiral clockwise, you swear they didn't before. A nun in a frayed mask materializes, sprinkling black barley around the crevasse. Her hem drips with suspicious yellow sludge, protection from the dog-faced ones, she croaks. Before you ask, she's gone, leaving a smell of burnt hair and bergamot. Another tremor hits, this time vertical. Your coffee cup executes a perfect pirouette off the table. The Frenchman emerges screaming about sheer margins. The nun returns, pours more barley. Her mask slips, revealing a burn scar shaped like the Big Dipper. You look away. Some mysteries bite. By week's end, the crevasse seals itself, jagged lips zipped shut with fresh snow. Lakpa's scarf resurfaces 2 miles downslope, tied around a startled marmot. The elders declare it an omen, then argue whether marmots can be reincarnated accountants. You gift the whetstone to a yawning porter, its spirals now faint as old scars. That night, the crevasse reopens directly beneath your tent. Stone walls polished to obsidian reflect a distorted face, yours, but grinning. The nun's voice hisses from below. Not your turn. Morning finds your cot perfectly intact, balanced atop a snow bridge, thin as cellophane. Villagers cross themselves, Buddhists doing impulsive Catholic gestures. The porter returns the whetstone, now warm and slightly sticky. Kept humming, he mutters, already backing away. Lakpa's wife invites you to his memorial, a butter sculpture melting into a silver bowl. Historians still argue whether 8th century sky burials included marmot viscera. You decide not to Google it. The butter tastes like grief and rancid miracles. As stars prick the sky, the crevasse exhales, not warmth, but a concentrated cold that cracks your pen's ink reservoir. The Frenchman's phone goes full bars for 12 seconds, long enough to send a text. Found whispering gallery. Bring earplugs. And lawyers. You leave at first light, gear sled trailing reluctant furrows. The villagers wave with one hand, the other clutching pebble amulets. 7 ravens circle their shadows, stitching the snow into forbidden constellations. Or maybe the glaciers, just bad at art. The whetstone sits in your glove compartment all the way to Lhasa. By the airport, it's crumbled into blue sand. Security raises an eyebrow. You shrug. Souvenir. They nod, Swiss passports granting grace for questionable life choices. Somewhere over the Pacific, you dream of Lakpa. He's waist deep in turquoise ice, waving with both hands. No harness, no fear, teeth shining like obsidian shards. His mouth forms 3 words. You wake tasting battery acid and impending snow. The flight attendant offers peanuts. You ask for cider. It arrives ice-free, yet frost patterns creep up the cup. You dump it into a sick bag, watch crystals bloom into the exact shape of the crevasse. When customs asks about soil samples, you lie through blue-stained teeth. The agent stamps your passport, his wedding ring glinting with a familiar spiral. You consider warning him, but hey, some marriages thrive on secrets, home smells of mildew, and overdue library books. You spill the crevasse's sand into a houseplant, its leaves curling like disappointed elders. Within hours, roots crack the pot, questing downward through floorboards toward what you pretend not to care. Rain taps at 3 a.m., a Morse code verdict. Somewhere, a marmot gnaws on nylon threads. A nun burns another mask. A villager's laughter echoes through infinite ice. You'd call it haunting. They'd call it bookmarking. Frost feathers your lashes before dawn, the kind that cling like crystalline spiders. Women already sway by the melt pools, their chipped enamel cups dipping in unison. Each scoop pulls up liquid starlight, or maybe that's sleep deprivation talking. Their song begins as a hum vibrations skimming ice like dragonflies on a pond. You recognize the tune, or think you do. 8th century tea caravans allegedly used it to calm yaks during hailstorms. Historians still argue whether the melodies contained actual instructions or just reminded animals of better weather. The syllables blur, Tibetan vowels dissolving into something older. One woman's voice cracks, a fissure splitting a glacier's facade. Others lean into the break, harmonizing with the flaw, until it becomes the song's spine. Their mittens knead ice chunks into submission, a technique borrowed from Qing dynasty dumpling chefs. Or so claims a moldering scroll you once skimmed in Chengdu. The comparison holds. Each woman folds meltwater into bamboo molds, like dough, trapping bubbles of trapped moonlight. A girl no older than 12 elbows past, her apron pockets bulging with blue quartz. She arranges them around your boots in a lopsided pentagram. For the snow foxes, she explains, though you're pretty sure Tibet lacks indigenous snow foxes, her breath smells of wild mint and Red Bull. The hymn shifts, guttural crescendos mimicking ice calving off the parent glacier. You count 7 distinct tones. Modern musicologists would sell their kidneys to record this. But your phone's dead from the cold, or maybe the women's glare fried its circuits. One aims a slush ball at your head, her smile all mischief and missing molars. They pass a dented thermos. Liquid hits your tongue before consent, butter tea laced with something fungal and saliva warm. It burns, then soothes, then makes you acutely aware of your own liver. The eldest singer winks, her irises clouded with cataracts the color of Arctic thaw. Work resumes, voices roughening with each repetition. You notice their knuckles, split open and refrozen, so often they resemble shattered porcelain. A bead of blood wells up, sinks into the ice mold. The women hiss, a collective intake of breath. Now it's blessed, mutters the Red Bull girl, though her gaze darts toward the crevasse where Lakpa vanished. The elder spits 3 times left, right, center, before resealing the mold with a slap. Memories resurface, your grandmother singing lullabies while kneading sourdough. Different continent, same defiance of silence. These women aren't just filtering water, they're distilling time. The ice molds sweat under their palms, though the air remains sub-zero. Thermodynamics takes a cigarette break here. A commotion upstream, two teenagers wrestle a malfunctioning filtration pump. It coughs black smoke, a dissonant bass line to the hymn. The elder hurls a mold at them. It shatters against a boulder, releasing water already somehow steaming. The pump quiets. Coincidence? The women smirk behind their scarves. Your numb fingers fumble a water sample. The Red Bull girl pounces, scooping it up with a tin ladle. Lost things go to the moon lake, she recites, then adds sotto voce. Except boyfriends. Those go to India. Shadows lengthen, the hymn phrase into improvisation. Someone's humming a Bollywood hit from the 90s. Others join in gamely twisting Hindi pop into something the glacier might forgive. The elder pretends not to hear, but her foot taps patterns from a previous millennium. They gift you a finished ice block, veined with gold sediment, and that one drop of blood. It pulses faintly, or maybe that's your optic nerve surrendering. You cradle it like a blasphemous infant, already dreading the TSA pat-down. As dusk bleeds out, the women scrub their tools with scrunched-up nettles. Their final hymn dissolves into gossip about a llama who married his yak. Third wife. Someone cackles. The elder lobs a snowball, blatant censorship, wrapped in deniability. Your tent zipper freezes shut. Again. The Red Bull girl appears, licks the slider, grins at your disgust. Saliva's 98% holy water here. She lies, then vanishes into the shale fields. You dream of choirs. Ice statues singing Gregorian chants in a Costco parking lot. The lyrics morph into grocery lists. Detergent, rice, forgiveness. A yak crushes your coupons. You wake relieved until spotting the ice block, now glowing ocean blue. Morning reveals new verses scratched into your tent's frost layer. Not Sanskrit, not Tibetan, possibly Icelandic death metal lyrics. The women deny involvement. One offers you a hairpin forged from salvaged helicopter parts. For protection, she insists, then adds, also good for picking locks. By midday, the hymn becomes a round. Villagers add layers. A wheelbarrow squeak. The click of prayer beads. The Frenchman absent-mindedly whistling La Marseillaise. It shouldn't work. It does. Even the glacier seems to pause its groans, syncing with the refrain. The elder presses a thumbprint into your palm, sticky with resin and symbolism. Her nail carves a spiral only visible when you squint or hallucinate. For the next song, she says, leaving the threat implied. When you finally trudge downhill, the melody follows. Wind in power lines, distant rockfalls, your own arrhythmic gulps for oxygen. It's not earworm, it's earcephalopod. 3 weeks later, showered, and sous videing a Trader Joe's meal, you'll catch yourself humming it. The ice block in your freezer will crack in perfect harmony, just as the microwave dings. Jars cluster at your feet, each glazed rim crusted with frost salt from forgotten seas. Their arrangement defies grids, a sprawl of frozen honeycomb and intersecting arcs. A villager adjusts one with their boot, nudging it half an inch west. The sound echoes hollower than church bells at midnight. You recognize the pattern, or think you do. 3rd century Indus Valley seals showed similar spirals near water storehouses. Historians still argue whether they guided libations or just confused invading armies. Salt workers here swear the shapes mimic mole rat tunnels, which is odd, since moles can't survive this altitude. A man in yak leather gloves taps your shoulder, offering a lump of Himalayan salt resembling Truman Capote. For balance, he grunts, then lobs it into the formation. The jars quiver their shadows, knitting into a 12-pointed star. You're 90% sure that's a trick of the light, and 10% ready to convert to mole theology. They chant numbers now Tibetan syllables for 7 colliding with Mandarin 13. A teenager in Supreme branded mittens syncs the count to a Bluetooth speaker's beat. The elder allows this heresy, but confiscates his chapstick. Golden afternoon slants through the jars, projecting liquid rhomboids onto nearby boulders. A woman traces them with charred juniper sticks, smoke curling into equations only ravens parse. Her toddler tries licking the light patterns, gets salt-trimmed lips for his trouble. The ritual demands silence, yet someone's Apple Watch pings with a calendar alert. Full moon explains the culprit, as if corporations own lunar phases now. The elder confiscates the device, buries it in a salt pile like radioactive waste. You notice the jars aren't identical. Some bulge with prior glacier melt. Others hold murk from the '89 Sino-Indian border skirmish. All share the same faded mark on their bases, a hooked spiral resembling a lactose molecule. Local guides claim it's the snow leopard's curled tail, but you've seen the same symbol on Qinghai brothel tokens. 3 nuns arrive, frost blistering their shaved scalps. They ring bronze bells precisely out of sync, creating dissonance that shivers your molars. The jars amplify the tones, a chord so low it vibrates your fillings. One nun winks, revealing a tattoo of Matthew McConaughey on her eyelid. Dazed and confused fans transcend borders. Suddenly, the salt Capote statue melts. Liquid streams toward the jars, sketching Fibonacci curves in the dirt. Workers cheer. This means the mountain approved their math. Or maybe they're just thrilled to see art that literally drips. Twilight warps the geometry. Jar shadows stretch into pan-dimensional spiderwebs. Or perhaps that's your second-day altitude headache. A French hydrologist whispers that similar patterns caused the 1927 Shanghai stock crash. His proof involves pyramidology and 5 grams of psilocybin. They begin dismantling the mandala, first removing the northeast jars. Liquid sloshes, but not a drop spills. The elder licks each vessel's rim, her tongue blackened from decades of tannin tea. Smooth edges confuse evil, she mumbles, though you suspect it's more about quality control. A jar cracks, its fracture hissing like a deflating soul. Workers freeze. Someone mutters Mongolian death worm, weather vane. A phrase that makes sense only here. Salt pours from the split, forming hieroglyphs of panic. The toddler from earlier stamps them out, giggling at the adult's dismay. You're handed the broken shard, edges filed safe by centuries of glacial polish. Its inner curve holds minuscule runes, either instructions for water dowser or an 8th century shopping list. The supreme mitten teen snaps a pic, filter set to influencer walrus. Nightfall brings pilgrims holding prismatic ice chunks. They add them to the shrinking formation, turning the mandala into a disco ball for stoics. Someone hums Stayin' Alive, but transposed to a Tibetan morning scale. The elder allows it, while scowling at a drone overhead. By dawn, the offering vanishes. No drag marks, no puddles, just salt brushed into mimicry of wind. Workers nod. This means the glaciers drank. You eye their pockets, wondering who gets the Bluetooth speaker back. Your boots crunch homeward each step, erasing the night's calculus. Behind a single jar glints where none remained. It's from your grandmother's cellar, or a convincing replica. The contents slosh when prodded, the acoustic profile of a whispered secret. You leave it untouched. Some equations solve themselves, usually after you've stopped looking. The supreme teen texts you later, a blurry photo of Makanai's tattoo winking beside the vanished mandala. No caption needed, just coordinates, and a playlist titled Thirst Traps for Iceworms. The loom crouches in a hut, its bamboo frame groaning with each shuttle pass. Bolts of cloth hang like frozen rivers, their blues deeper than Arctic midnight. You recognize indigo, but also something sharper, the bite of glacial algae harvested during solar eclipses. A weaver nods, her fingers stained the color of drowned skies. She threads a needle carved from yak bone, its eye wide enough for 3 strands. Some claim 8th century Zen monks first wove river maps into prayer flags. Others cite Genghis Khan's covert textile codes for invading the Pamirs. The truth, probably some overworked mom inventing waterproof diapers. The weaver snorts at your theory, spinning the loom with a wrist flick monk's reserve for temple gongs. Threads bleed as she works, cobalt rivulets pooling on packed earth. You swear they flow uphill, following the same paths as those meltwater jars. Someone hung a Bluetooth speaker from the rafters, its bass thump warring with the shuttle's thwick-thwack. The playlist, Enya remixed with Himalayan throat singing. It shouldn't work. Yet here you are nodding along to Orinoco Flow in Dorjes Key. The fabric stiffens instantly, frost crystals blooming across its surface. It crackles when bent, releasing the scent of hailstones hitting hot slate. Historians still argue whether these tapestries were medieval currency or just fancy picnic blankets for yak herders. The weaver slices a strip with silver shears, hands steadier than a sniper on decaf. For your blisters, she says, adhering it to your peeling forehead. Instant relief with the side effect of tasting tin if you sweat. A boy bursts in clutching a jar of iridescent beetles. The weaver crushes one, its guts, yielding a purple glaze for sacred mantras. Entomologists would lose their minds. These bugs supposedly went extinct when Kublai Khan rage quit a siege. The boy pockets 50 yuan, muttering about Bitcoin payments for next week's batch. Sunlight fractures through the cloth, projecting Nepal's entire river system onto the wall. A tourist gasps, dropping her matcha latte in existential awe. The weaver tuts, blotting the spill with fabric that drinks liquid without staining. You make a mental note. These rags could fund a Tesla if marketed to klutzes in Milan. Dusk brings moths the size of thumbs. They flock to the dye vats like fuzzy alcoholics. Their wings leave glyph-shaped dust prints, which apprentices transcribe into next season's patterns. One lands on your notebook, its antennae sketching Pythagorean theorems. You trap it under your tea bowl, only to find the symbols now imprinted on the porcelain. The weaver collapses the loom at midnight, its joints creaking like arthritic constellations. She buries the shuttle under a cairn whispering coordinates to an Antarctic ice shelf. You don't ask. Some mysteries stay woven tighter than airport souvenir sweaters. As you leave, a scrap of cloth clings to your shoe. It's monogrammed with a Cyrillic B, though the nearest Russia lies 800 miles north. When rinsed, the threads rearrange into last century's London Stock Exchange charts. You toss it into a campfire, the flames hissing as they vaporize Bernie Madoff's birth year. Back at your tent, the forehead bandage dissolves into snowmelt. Your skin smells of lichen and unreported tax havens. The Bluetooth speaker plays static now. Or maybe the rustle of weavers 10 centuries gone. You dream of moths trading futures on the Silk Road, their proboscises dipped in indigo ink. Dawn reveals the hut vanished, replaced by a stone slab carved with loom-shaped hieroglyphs. A fresh bolt of cloth lies at its base, the texture of refrigerated velvet. You unfold 10 meters, finding a perfect map of your hometown's sewer system. Coincidence? Sure, but maybe pack some for next April's monsoon. The Supreme Teen texts again, a video of the weaver breakdancing at a Kathmandu rave. Her skirt flares, revealing patent leather boots stenciled with "Made in Bhutan, Bhutan." You reply with a single beetle emoji, then block the number. Wisdom comes at the price of unanswered DMs. Rain arrives, sluicing the last dye puddles into anemic streams. The cloth hardens in your pack, its creases humming Beethoven's Ode to Joy in a minor key. You hum along, until realizing the melodies shifting into the Pizza Hut jingle. Some harmonies shouldn't transcend cultures. By noon, your shadow stretches woven each strand, pixelated like cheap airport Wi-Fi. You check for loose threads, find none. The mountain folds its textiles tight today, and you're just a dangling selvage waiting to be trimmed. The woven shadow clings to your heels, an umbilical cord of frost-stitched light. Villagers emerge with swaddled newborns, each face the color of uncarved soapstone. An elder cracks a thumb-sized vial, its glass fogged with glacial breath. First taste defines them, she murmurs, letting a droplet hover above a squalling mouth. 17th century, Ming scrolls show emperors guzzling mineral springs for immortality. Spoiler, they died anyway. These babies get better marketing. The droplet falls, hitting the tongue with the click of a quartz crystal meeting ice. The wail cuts off, replaced by a sound like wind through glacial crevasses. Parents exhale their relief, misting into halo-shaped clouds. Someone hands you a jar. Translucent twists float in meltwater. Umbilical cords, a teen explains. We freeze them into the ice sheet, protective charms. One looks suspiciously like an old headphone cable. Historians still argue whether these rituals slowed the glacier's retreat or gave it performance anxiety. A dad brags his kid's first word was Bergschrund. Most kids just puke and stare. The elder smears the baby's soles with blue clay, so she'll always walk toward cold peaks. You resist pointing out Antarctica's job market limitations. The village dogs circle, noses glazed with hoarfrost. They've learned to lick baptism runoff from the stones, their howls dropping 3 octaves afterward. A toddler chases a mutt, diaper sagging, with what you hope is melted snow. Nightfall brings ice cubes carved into pacifiers. Babies gnaw them, gumming cryptic shapes into the surfaces. One pattern matches the floor plans of Heathrow's Terminal 5, built 3 centuries from now. Coincidence? Or did British Airways steal a teething ring? You trip over a ceremonial ladle, its handle inlaid with mammoth ivory. Carbon dating proved it's from 2027, which archaeologists call embarrassing, but canon. A grandma chuckles her teeth, replaced with sculpted hailstones. The mountain laughs through paradoxes. Dawn reveals toddlers stacking ice bricks into wobbly ziggurats. Their giggles spike the air sharp as crevasse detectors pinging. One structure mirrors the Pentagon, if the Pentagon had a breastfeeding room. A mom whispers that her son dreams avalanche patterns before they happen. Wall Street already offered an internship. Church bells ring, except their hollowed icicles struck with foxtails. The hymn, Let It Go in classical Tibetan, Elsa wishes she had this range. A baptismal font overflows, its runoff sketching crop circles in the permafrost. You pocket a melted pacifier. It reforms in your hand as a USB drive. The files, baby photos, from a family reunion you'll attend in 2049. The infant from today winks in one, her eyes glacier blue, and older than an Instagram filter. As you leave, The village well sings lullabies in MLA format. Works cited 16 glacial floods and a Yeti's doctoral thesis. The parents wave their palms frosted with the residue of what they've unleashed. A single rule echoes as your boots crunch homeward. Never gift these kids snow globes. They'll shake them into supercells and laugh as thunder apologizes to the quiet. The air tastes different today, sharp with powdered stone and the metallic tang of dying ice. You've timed this pilgrimage wrong, or perhaps right. A throaty groan shudders through your boots, the glacier's vertebrae snapping one by one. Across the valley, a crown of snow peels away in slow motion. 800 years of compacted winters disintegrate, becoming fog before they hit the rocks. Someone left a thermos of butter tea at the base camp shrine, still warm. You sip gritty liquid gold, your fingers leaving sweat prints on steel. 3 nuns chant nearby, their voices syncopated with icefall crashes. One wears novelty sunglasses shaped like Mount Everest, gifted by a Japanese tour group in '97. Her lenses flash as the north face shears off, a skyscraper's worth of blue vanishing into mist. You kneel to fill clay jars, brackish melt pools winking up at you. These shallows once held trout that glowed like lanterns, or so 18th century traders claimed. Now it's just silt, and the occasional Coke can from a '94 expedition. The jars gulp lazily, their bellies filling with what's left of the Pleistocene. A hand-carved signpost tilts nearby arrows pointing to Lhasa, Kathmandu, and a stenciled Atlantis. Locals insist meltwater unlocks star maps in certain skull types, mostly geology PhDs, and bassoon players. A crumpled Sunkist packet blows past, its logo bleached into a ghostly rictus. You pocket it. Future archaeologists will need the chuckle. 2 goats materialize, nibbling lichen off crumpling ice walls. Their bells clank out smells like teen spirit in minor key. Nirvana never covered glacial recession, but Coben's ghost probably digs the aesthetic. One goat stares you down, pupils reflecting the exact shade of blue your childhood swimming pool was pretending to be. The nuns start stacking ice cubes into a scale model of the International Space Station. For balance, the sunglassed one explains. China's Tiangong Station passed overhead yesterday. Astronauts reportedly snapped photos of the calving event. Historians still argue whether celestial observations affect ice laws, or if we're just narcissists projecting onto the cosmos. Your radio crackles, a garbled weather report. Supercell forming over. Static swallows the rest. Probably a hoax, unless those baptized toddlers are experimenting with snow globes again. A pebble bounces off your boot, its surface etched with perfect hexagons. Natural fracture patterns, or the world's tiniest NATO summit. Sudden sunlight hits the devastation. A rainbow arcs through settling dust. It lands precisely where the visitor center stood before the '15 quake. Coincidence, or nature's way of saying we offer store credit. You toss a pebble through the spectral colors. It comes down coated in frost that tastes like Earl Grey. The goats retreat their bells, fleeing into a requiem of dripping seracs. You tighten the jar straps, leather groaning against your collarbones. This batch won't spark Renaissance fountains or baptize future prophets. It'll dissolve into municipal tap water, flavoring some accountant's morning oatmeal in Calgary. A nun offers you a Chinese letter BOX-sized ice sculpture. It's a lifelike cockroach. For resilience, she smirks. The legs twitch as it melts. Either divine intervention or your altitude headache. You slip it into the thermos. Let future generations debate the holy insect in their Darjeeling. By dusk, the glacier's silhouette resembles a sneer. Cartographers will argue about contours on next year's maps. Grief masquerading as topography. Your headlamp catches a final marvel, 1,000-year-old air bubbles surfacing in a melt pool. Each pop whispers the same phrase in extinct dialect. Sounds suspiciously like told you so. The path home has grown 40 centimeters overnight, permafrost's cruel parody of a growth spurt. You step over a fresh fissure, bottomless and humming Bohemian Rhapsody at 432 HC. No one believes that part later. Jars clink, a funeral march for ice too old to apologize. Somewhere, a baby chews on a USB drive full of glaciologist memes. The mountain sighs its last snow, which lands on your tongue as a perfect sugar cube. Sweetness dissolves, carrying the faintest echo of glaciers that fed the Ganges when Caesar ruled. You spit it into a jar. Let historians argue whether it's sacrilege or science. Either way, breakfast tea just got interesting. Exhaustion drags you beneath consciousness like an anchor through kelp, your sleeping bag crusted with ice feathers. Dreams come in fractured panes. A stained glass window smashed by hail. Blue wolves pace the shore of a frozen sea, their paw prints sprouting orchids made of light. One pauses to lap meltwater from your cupped hands. Its tongue leaves hieroglyphs on your palms. The vision shifts your back. In 9th grade biology class, dissecting a glacier instead of a frog. The teacher scribbles equations for time's half-life on the chalkboard. Eraser dust becomes snowfall. A pop quiz asks how many empires died to make this ice. You bubble in all of them with a number 2 glacier core. Reality seeps through the nylon tent. Dawn's first blush staining the frost. A marmot gnaws your bootlace, its teeth clicking Morse code for tourist. You swig cold tea, last night's sugar cube, now a tiny iceberg rattling in the jar. In the 15th century, caravans carried glacier ice to cure fevers in Mogul courts. Your guidebook calls it Himalayan Tylenol. Your breath sculpts fog dragons on the tent ceiling. They twist into the exact shape of Eisenhower's 1953 inaugural route. Coincidence? Or ancient ice mocking mid-century infrastructure? A Sherpa once told you Everest's summit snow tastes like Truman's aftershave. But Sherpas also say why, Anger's mountain spirits. Frost has welded your socks into origami cranes. You peel them free with a sound like Velcro divorcing. Outside, an entire icefall collapsed overnight. The debris field glitters like a billionaire's abandoned diamond mine. Local teens swear the ice groans in A-flat during moonless nights, though musicologists blame nesting snow finches. You find fresh tracks circling camp, three-toed, and radiating cold like dry ice. Yeti enthusiasts would have peed themselves with joy. But you recognize the tread from a YakTrax cleat sail. The real mysteries that Snickers wrapper, frozen 6 inches down either time dilation, or a really dedicated litter bug from 9. A crevice nearby hums Vaughan Williams' Sinfonia Antarctica, a natural wind harp, or your playlist crossed brain. Scholars still dispute whether these frost patterns predicted Genghis Khan's victories, or just raccoon tracks from a 1243 expedition. You drop a pebble into the abyss. It returns covered in lichen shaped like the iTunes logo. By mid-morning, the sun bleaches shadows into afterthoughts. Your thermometer reads degrees C, the exact temperature penguin tears freeze, not scientifically verified, but emotionally accurate. Icicles drip onto your notebook. Ink runs into Rorschach blots. One resembles Bernie Sanders campaigning on permafrost reform. The glacier's last unbroken slope looms, a shattered mirror held together by spite. 19th century climbers believed this face echoed prayers to Vishnu. If you screamed credit card numbers, you chip at the blue wall, ice chips skittering like dropped casino tokens. 11,000 years of atmospheric history melt on your tongue, tastes like regret and faint pineapple. A drone buzzes overhead, its GoPro sporting a tiny knitted sweater. For research, someone lies through a megaphone. You flash the Vulcan salute, their shadow flees across the ice like a bedbug from karma. The downdraft unearths a soda can from your first breakup summer, still fizzing with unresolved angst. Clouds above mirror glacial features, a Rorschach test for the sky. You spot Reagan's profile, the Sydney Opera House, and an exact replica of your third grade macaroni art. Meteorologists blame La Niña, but you suspect a giant toddler with paste. Darkness falls, a switch flipped by titans. The Milky Way reflects in your goggles as a celestial Slurpee. Aurora tendrils drape the peaks like God's screen saver glitching. Polar explorers once ate raw leopard seal liver here. Visions included polka-doting yetis and spontaneous yodeling. Your stove dies mid-soup, leaving noodles fossilizing in broth. Dinner becomes a rite of spring reenactment. Cold teeth versus semi-rigid carbohydrates. A marmot observes from a boulder, its expression screaming, yelp, review incoming. Sleep ambushes you mid-bite. Dreams resume with unwelcome sequels. The ice wolves are back, this time running a speakeasy inside an iceberg. They're terrible bartenders. Every drink's just snow cones with existential dread. A cub licks hieroglyphs from your palm. They now translate as moisturize more. Dawn arrives as a subpoena, pink light, serving court orders to shadows. Your boots have grown their own ice beards, style reminiscent of 1920s oil tycoons. The sugar cube jar's gone, replaced by a suspiciously symmetrical snowball. You let historians win this round. Some battles require footnotes and therapy. Lacing frozen boots, you spot fresh tracks leading into mist. Not Yeti, not human, maybe Wind's idea of a prank. The path ahead shimmers, a desert mirage's albino cousin. Last night's aurora left static in your fillings. Each step buzzes like a neutered vuvuzela. A glacial stream winks, its current carrying pixelated fish from that Windows 98 screensaver. You half expect the NPR radio hour to harmonize with babbling water. Instead, get Nickelback covers from an unseen marmot chorus, evolution's greatest blunder. The ice shifts, a bassoon groan resonating in your molars. Music teachers claim this frequency reshapes spleen cells. But music teachers also think recorder duets are culture. You Hum My Heart will go on to test the theory. The Glacier vomits a 1910 horseshoe. Titanic fanfic writes itself. By noon, the weakened ice forces detours. Your map becomes a Picasso sketch, contours bleeding into grocery lists, and X's phone digits. A cairn marks where two alpinists married in 87 vows, sealed with crampon rings. Their divorce papers are rumored frozen in a crevasse. Awaiting warmer climates, shadows stretch into stretchers, carrying yesterday's sunlight to the morgue. You unpack the last energy bar. Its expiration date reads when convenient. Biting down, it shatters into gluten-free confetti. Dinner theater at the apocalypse. 5 stars for commitment. The ice wolves howl at dusk, sound waves crystallizing into wind chimes. One note lodges in your collar, its vibration spelling soon in radioactive Morse. You pocket it. The mountain's last word deserves a proper frame. Stars emerge, lazy ticks on reality's checklist. A satellite blinks through Orion, SpaceX's latest art project, or sky cocaine. Your headlamp fails. Moonlight reveals fluorescent minerals in the ice. They pulse like airport runway lights for UFOs with social anxiety. Morning arrives as an argument between frost and sunlight. Your tent zipper mediates through sobs. The world smells of static and disappointed mittens. Packing up, you realize one jar's contents have frozen into a perfect replica of the Eiffel Tower. Paris would be flattered and mildly concerned. The descent begins each step, compressing eons into afterthoughts. Behind you, the glacier exhales a final plume of diamond dust. Somewhere, a newborn tastes ancient ice for the first time and burps in the key of rebirth. Clouds part, revealing the next valley's glacier already retreating up its throne. Your socks are still damp. Your boots sink into thaw mud. the valley drinking yesterday's ice with greedy slurps. Empty jars clank against your pack, a hollow music older than credit scores. Fingerprints cling to the ceramic, little maps of your brief custody. Victorian explorers shipped Himalayan ice to Calcutta clubs, straw hats clinking in gin, while glaciers wept. Your blisters throb in solidarity. A creek laughs at your blisters, its water now laced with your sweat and DNA. You envision future archaeologists carbon dating your stupidity. In the 70s, Soviet climbers swore vodka melted crampons faster, then got trapped singing ABBA in a snow cave for 6 days. Kids in the next village will find your lost hair tie and weave it into avalanche warning charms. The path narrows, stone markers painted with ibex blood guiding your return. Hands ache like they're gripping unread emails from 2016. Somewhere upstream, fresh cracks yawn open, the mountain birthing new collectors. Your guide once claimed glaciers purr when touched by virgins, an awkward fact during his divorce proceedings. Rain arrives, liquid nails hammering your hood. 19th century British officers paid in silver for untainted meltwater to chill their hubris. You imagine red coats sipping from goblets, frostnip blooming on their upper lips. Your own canteen holds a pebble shaped like Einstein's profile, or maybe a disgruntled sheep. Flip it twice, the debate continues. At dusk, the first prayer flags whip like wet laundry. Wrinkled hands emerge from a stone hut, a trade of empty jars for barley bread, still warm from lies. Elders murmur as they inspect the vessels, checking for shadow fractures betraying doubt. In 93, a thief tried selling glacial water to a spa chain. His hair turned mint green for 7 years. Night falls with Buddhist finality. Stars, reflected in puddles, become sinking universes. You huddle near a dung fire. Its smoke smells of existential pop quizzes. A goat bleats the chorus of Never Gonna Give You Up, the valley's favorite April Fool's joke. Since satellite radio arrived, historians still argue whether Genghis Khan melted glaciers for warfare or just really liked smoothies. Dawn finds you scrubbing jars with sand, a monk's austerity without the Instagram clout. Teens race yaks past your camp, their laughter icing the air like aerosol cans. One Animal Planet crew swore these hills caused their cameras to capture ghostly reindeer later, confirmed as an intern in a bathrobe. The last village appears, smoke scribbling cursive above cedar roofs, a toddler pressed against your leg, offering a pebble polished by glacial milk. You trade your last blister pad for it, currency of the desperate and sentimental. Their parents nod, the pebbles already a legend in playground politics. Your train out whistles, a sound like steam apologizing for colonialism. Hands flex, phantom jars still shaping your grip. Mobile service returns with 98 vengeful pings, the modern world's freezer burn. As the tracks curve, you spot teens hiking upward with clay pots lashed to bamboo. The mountain barely notices your absence. Your boots sink into thaw mud, the valley drinking slow, savoring each drop like a secret. Empty jars sway, their hollow song softer now, a lullaby for hands raw with purpose. Somewhere, a creek carries your sweat into the earth's memory, fading like ink in rain. Stone markers glow faintly, painted with stories older than whispered prayers. You count breaths, not steps, as the path unravels behind you. A pebble warms in your palm, smooth as a skipped heartbeat. They'll call it luck, or maybe just a rock, but it fits the curve of your grip. Rain taps your shoulders, gentler now, forgiving the weight you carried. Distant laughter threads through pines, teens still scaling ridges, with jars clutched like hope. Their voices melt into wind, the mountain humming decades-old tunes. You half expect the glacier to wave, but it simply breathes, unburdened. Night drapes the valley in moth-wing gray. Stars blink once, twice, before dissolving into dawn's first sigh. Smoke curls from huts, charcoal sketches of warmth. You leave no footprints here. The mud seals itself shut, patient as a closed eyelid. The train whistle floats upward, a tired song, softened by distance. Your palms loosen empty, yet somehow full. Phones chime far below 98 echoes muffled by rock and pine. You smile, knowing the jars now pass to smaller hands, their rhythm unchanged, their thirst unbroken. And as the tracks bend, the mountain exhales, never missing a beat.